shall rest on the will of the people and allow for the common good. Bless the efforts of those who struggle to make this vision a living reality. Inspire and strengthen our people that may give time, thought, and sacrifice to speed the day of the coming beauty of Ghana and Africa. Amen. Honourable members, the votes and proceedings of the 35th sitting, the second meeting of the first session held on Tuesday, 27 July 2021. As corrected, is ready. We shall go through the votes and proceedings of Tuesday, 27th July 2021. Page 1. Page 2. Page 3. Page 4. Page 5. Page 6. Page 7. Yes, Honorable Deputy Whip.
Mr. Speaker, on page 7, number 3, the Honorable Member, and then number 6, the Honorable Afenyo Markins and the Honorable Amiel Treme. They sought permission, they had ECOWAS engagement in the central region. And that of number 30, the Honorable Minister for Youth and Sports, he also sought permission. He's in Tokyo now for the Olympic Games.
Honorable Deputy Whip, do you have the application?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, it was done. They sought for permission and it was granted.
Very well. Let the table office take note. Page 8. Page 9. Page 10. Page 11. Page 12. Yes, Honorable Member for.
Mr. Speaker, page 12, item 8A, the referral. The Honorable First Deputy Speaker referred the security. I think the title has national in addition. So it would be appropriate to add national security strategy to the committee on. So national is omitted.
Sorry,
Then,
not National Security Strategy A.
Yeah.
Which one
the
are
National
you
Security Strategy to the Committee on Defense and Interior. The national has been omitted, just written the security strategy. But the title of the document you referred is National Security Strategy.
Are we looking at the same thing? The National Security Strategy A, secure and prosperous Ghana, with regional, continental, and global reach and influence. The Honorable President can refer the security strategy to the Committee on Defense and Interior for consideration and report. Which particular one are you referring to?
Page 12. Are we not on page 12, Mr. Speaker?
Yes, I'm on page 12.
Yeah, I'm saying, so in referring, you just read the security strategy referred, but I'm talking about the real title, the referral. Or you think we should omit the national there? If you feel so, we can move on.
Oh, Honorable referred the security strategy.
Yeah.
Or the thing it should be national security strategy.
Yes.
All right, it's clearer now.
Then,
Table of office.
Mr. Speaker, the last, after B, 8B, the reports of the Auditor General, III, then he said the Honorable First Deputy Speaker referred the reports to Committee on Defense and Interior. It should rather be Committee of Public Accounts.
Some were annual reports. So I think they confused the annual report with the audited report.
Yeah, these are
So these are the Auditor General's
reports.
Yes. You referred to the Public Accounts Committee. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Here's page 13. Page 14. Page 15. Page 16. Page 17. Page 18. Page 19. Yes.
So, Speaker, page 18. Moved, the by there should be deleted. Moved on Friday 16th. You cannot move by on Friday. And the third line, member for Savdai, the Mr. is repeated, so one would have to go. Then the same page 18, Mr. Speaker, item 11. And it being, the being is also omitted. And it being 8 minutes after 8.
Very well. The table office will take note to make the appropriate corrections. Honourable members, in the absence of any further corrections, the votes and proceedings of Tuesday, 27 July, as corrected, are hereby adopted as a true record of proceedings. Yes, Honourable.
Yeah, if you indulge me, I'm very sorry. I just saw this and I thought it's very important for our records that I bring it to your notice. Speaker, page 18. I just realized that question proposed, debate arising, debate deferred. I thought yesterday we actually started a debate on private members' motion on CSR. So we actually started a debate yesterday. It wasn't deferred. I thought I should bring it to the notice of the table office. So I'm sorry.
It is right. It did not conclude, so the question was not put.
Speaker, you're right. Thank you.
Very well. Item number 5. It's an urgent question. An urgent question to be answered by the Minister for Roads and Highways. Yes, Honourable Minister. Urgent question is in the name of the Honourable Member for Naregu Gambaga, Seidu Isif.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. I rise to ask the Minister for Roads and Highways when the railings of the newly constructed bridge at Kolgwana will be fixed to avert the danger its absence poses to motorists.
Yes, Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Kugona Junction to Nayeri Jobrojo feeder road is 12 kilometers and connects the Nalerugu, Bintre, and Nakwanduris to Gushegu in the Eastern Corridor trunk roads. Within the Eastman Proceedings District of the Northeast region, the road is a gravel surface road. The structure referred to in the question is not a bridge, but a double 2x2 meter concrete box culvert structure for which the approach field is yet to be completed. Currently, Mr. Speaker, contract for the rehabilitation of Kuguna Junction to Nayeri to Jabrojo Feeder Road commenced on 3rd October 2016 and was scheduled for completion on 3rd October 2017. The scope of works included clearing and formation, construction of 900 millimeter diameter pipe culverts, 1,200 millimeter diameter pipe culverts, a double 2x2 meter box culvert with approach fields and provision of gravel sub-base. Mr. Speaker, the current progress of work is projected at 10% physical completion. The contractor vacated sites after clearing, formation, and construction of the double 2x2 meter box culvert. The site is still vacant despite the issuance of a warning letter for the contractor to return to site. The future program is that a final warning letter will be issued to the return to site in order to remedy the situation of August 2021, failure of which the contract needed and repackaged for award. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honourable Member.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to find out from the Minister why the contractor vacated site.
Yes, Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, from my answer, I said that almost 10% of the work is done. It means that the contractor left site very early, and the reason for a contractor to leave site could be numerous. The reasons could be numerous. In this case, it could be due to lack of capacity, non-performance, because he cannot complain about lack of payment in this particular instance. We have written to him in the form of a warning letter to return to site. And if he doesn't, the project will be repackaged and re-awarded. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, from the Minister's answer, I want to believe that there was no extensive engagement between the ministry and the contractor. Because if the contractor lacked capacity, I'm not sure he would have been given the job to do.
Ask a question. Leave out the
I want to find out if the minister can give us the details of this contractor and possibly if there was any financial commitment between his ministry and this said contractor.
Yes, Honorable Minister. Who is the contractor?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wish my colleague had gone the tangent that he started, that my ministry did not do due diligence before awarding that contract. It's regrettable that my colleague should draw that conclusion. And I forgive him because this can only come out of ignorance. Ignorance, not to him as a person, but ignorance of the processes of awarding contracts. That's why I say I forgive him because anybody who is not associated with the process will perhaps talk in same manner. Mr. Speaker, the name of the contractor is Honia AS Ghana Limited. The award date was 16 July 2016. Work commenced in October 2016. And by the end of 2016, almost, the contractor had left site, came back, and left site again. And the entire contract sum was 2.5 million Ghana cedis. And the work done was an infinitesimal of this amount. He had not even done enough to warrant the raising of the first IPC to be paid. So if I say that after giving the contractor access to the site was vacated, despite the fact that he had gone through the competitive bidding with all the support documents and had won the contract. And this is not an exceptional case. There are a number of cases like that. It's not every contractor who goes through the process and wins the contract as able to execute it. It does not mean that the ministry did not do due diligence. Even this contract was awarded as far back as 2016, during the time of the previous government and my predecessor. But I will not stand here to say that my predecessor did not do due diligence. Due diligence was done. So perhaps that is out of ignorance. I thank you.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, we're in the House of Records. I just want to clear the air for the Honorable Minister to understand that I didn't impugn any any negative connotation from my question that I asked. I initially asked why the contractor left side, and he also tried to explain that it could be so many reasons. And one of them, he cited lack of capacity. That is why I followed up with that question. But I didn't intend to say that due diligence was not done before the contract was awarded. Now, my next question, I want to find out from the minister, from his answer, he's saying that the contractor is expected to be on site at the end of this month. I want to find out whether he can confirm that 1 year from today, the road will be handed over, the road will be completed for the people to have access to use it freely.
Yes, Honorable Minister, can you give any such assurance?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I clearly and unambiguously stated in my answer under future program that a final warning letter will be issued to the contractor to return to site to remedy the situation before the end of August 2021, because every contract is a legal document and we have to go through the processes thoroughly before finally abrogating the contract, if need be. So if by close of August the contractor had not paid heed to all the warning letters, then we will be in a position to terminate it, repackage it, and then re-award to a more competent contractor. So we are only hoping that with all these letters, the contractor will return to site. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
You've done 3 already. You can do more. Thank you.
Question
number 111. Another member for Shayo Sudoku.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I rise to ask the Minister for Roads and Highways when construction works on the following roads in the Shayo Sudoku constituency would be completed: Aikuma Doimu Junction, Osuwe Agoto, Asuchari Junction. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Ayikuma to Doyun Road is regional route known as R22, located in the Shayo Sudoku district of the Greater Accra region. The road is 10.8 kilometers long. It connects the Tema Akosombo Road, also known as N2, to the Shai area and the Ekwapim Ridge. The road is bituminous surface and is in fair to poor condition. Currently, Mr. Speaker, the contract for the rehabilitation of these 10.8 kilometer road commenced on 6 February 2015 for completion on 15 February 2016. The completion date has been extended to 19 December 2020 to enable the contractor complete all outstanding works. The progress of work is projected at 70% physical completion. 2, the Osuwem to Agoto Road. Mr. Speaker, this road is a section of the Osuwem Nwebenya, also known as Sopoli Road, and it's a feeder road measuring 26 kilometers. It is a gravel road in poor condition and located in the Shai Osudoku district of the Greater Accra region. Currently, Mr. Speaker, contracts for the bituminous surfacing of the Osuwem, Nwebenya through Agoto were awarded to 4 contractors as follows. 1, and I'm taking the surfacing of Osuwem, Nwebenya Feeder Road, Phase 1, measuring 6 kilometers. The above contract was awarded on 12 September 2016 and commenced on 1st November 2016 for completion on 1st November 2017. Contractor vacated site for after completing 15% of physical works. 2, the bitumen surfacing of Osuwem Nwebenya Feeder Road Phase 2, covering the distance of 6 kilometers, that is between kilometer 6 to kilometer 12. The above contract was awarded on 4th October 2016 and commenced on 19th October 2016 for completion on 18th October 2017. The Speaker, contractor vacated site after completing 5% of physical works. 3, bitumen surfacing of Osuwem to Nwebenya Feeder Road, Phase 3, covering 7 kilometers, that's from kilometer 12 to kilometer 19. The Speaker, the above contract was awarded on 12 July 2016 and commenced on 7 September 2016 for completion on 6 September 2017. Contractor vacated site after completing 34% of physical works. Then 4, the bitumen surfacing of Osuwem to Nwebenya Feeder Road, also known as Phase 4, from kilometer 19 to kilometer 26, also 7 kilometers. Mr. Speaker, the above contract was awarded on 4th October 2016 and commenced on 19th October 2016 for completion on 18th October 2017. Again, the contractor here failed to commence work. The future program, Mr. Speaker. The Department of Feeder Roads has commenced the necessary processes to terminate all contracts and repackage for award under the 2022 budget. The third road, Esuchari Junction to Esuchari. Mr. Speaker, the Esuchari Junction to Esuchari Road is part of the regional route R96 located in the Shai Osudoku district of the Greater Accra region. The road starts from Esuchari Junction on the main Tema Akosombo Road through Esuchari, Ekuse to Somenya. The road is bituminous surface treated in fair condition. There are 2 ongoing resealing projects as follows. 1, resealing of Esuchari Junction to Esuchari, a distance of 5.9 kilometers, and resealing of Esuchari Junction also to Esuchari from kilometer 5.9 to 11.8. Currently, Mr. Speaker, with the resealing of Esuchari Junction to Esuchari itself, a contract for the resealing of this road commenced on 12 May 2020 and was scheduled to be completed on 12 May 2021. The contractor executing the project has requested for additional time to enable him complete the work. The progress of work is projected at 30% physical completion. The contractor is expected to continue the work and complete it by the end of December 2021. 2, resealing of Esuchari Junction to Esuchari between kilometer 5.9 and kilometer 11.8. The Speaker, the contract for the reselling of this road commenced on 12 May 2020 and was scheduled to be completed on 12 May 2021. The contractor executing the project has requested for additional time to enable him complete the work. The progress of work is projected at 8% physical completion. The progress of work has been slow. The contractor is expected to continue the work and complete it by the end of December 2021. The project will be terminated and re-award if it is not completed by the end of the year. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, honorable member.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Permit me thank the Minister for his elaborate response. I notice most of my follow-up questions has already been captured. However, would like to make some quick comments that requires urgent attention as far as the ongoing project is concerned.
Not a comment, please.
Honorable Speaker, the contractor has not worked on the diverted road satisfactorily. As we speak now, the residents cannot access the road when it rains. I'm referring to the Ayikuma-Doimu road. When it rains, it will be appreciated if the contractor had put enough gravel and did some work on the same to allow comfortable movement of residents while we wait for the completion of the project. Honorable Minister, kindly work on this. Osuwe Agotor Road. Mr. Speaker, I have noted.
Honorable member.
That's the supplementary. Yes. But it's not, so I have to wait.
You're running a commentary. You're only permitted to ask a question, please. Kindly see the minister after here and share your observations with
one
him.
question, so
Thank you. And then all the next two questions are also for you. So you may ask question number 112.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. All what I'm trying to say is that it's raining season. So I want to find out from the Honorable Minister what he can do in the interim to survey the situation. Thank you.
That's right.
I've moved on to question 112. Can we ask your question? 112.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to ask the Minister for Roads and Highways what plans the ministry has to construct the following roads in the Shai Osudoku district: Akuse Asuchari, Doimu Agomeda, Asuchari Aveime. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I begin in that order. Akuse Esuchari Road. Mr. Speaker, this road is part of the regional route R96, located in the Shai Osudoku district of the Greater Accra region. The road starts from Esuchari on the main Tema Akosombo Road through Esuchari, Akuse to Shomena. The road is gravel surface in poor condition. Regraveling of Esuchari junction to Esuchari between kilometer 11.8 to kilometer 17. Mr. Speaker, a contract for the regraveling of this road commenced on 24 December 2019 and was scheduled to be completed on 23 December 2020. The contractor has abandoned the site. The progress to terminate the project is ongoing. The progress of work is projected at 8% physical completion. The future program. Mr. Speaker, this road forms part of the Bolivar Bridge project, which is expected to start later this year. The Dowum Agomeda feeder road of length 10.4 kilometers. Mr. Speaker, this road is located in the Shari-Osudoko district of the Greater Accra region. It is a feeder road in poor condition. There is no program on the road currently, Mr. Speaker. The future program is that the condition survey for rehabilitation of the road has been conducted and will be considered under 2022 budget. Roman number 3, Sukwari to Aveyume Road. This road is located in the Shari-Osudoko district. The road is gravel surfaced and in poor condition. Currently, there is no program on the road. But the future program is that this road has been earmarked for rehabilitation as part of the Bolivar Bridge project being funded by JICA. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have noted the Honorable Minister's response on this project. However, it's taking too long for the examination and repackaging of the processes to complete. I want to find out from the Minister, when will the contractor come on site? Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I partially agree with my colleague. It has taken a bit of a time because we had to follow the contractual arrangement. But from my answer, at least one thing should gladden her heart and then the people of her constituency. This road has been associated with the Bolivar Bridge, and as I indicated, under JICA, and the money is available. Funding for that project is available for the bridge, and the funding for all these roads was a condition precedent for the Japanese government to fund the bridge. And I'm happy to inform you that African Development Bank has also backed this project with funding, which is also available. So that I indicated, work on your roads and the roads of and the bridge itself will simultaneously commence before the end of the year, by the end of third quarter, beginning of fourth quarter. So at least there is funding now. And when the work starts, it will progress steadily and see completion. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Member.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Since the road is linked to the Bolivar Bridge, I'll reserve my comments for now. Thank you.
Very well. So you still have question number 113.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to ask the Minister for Roads and Highways when actual construction works on the Bolivar Bridge would commence. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Bolivar Bridge is a 540-meter-long cable-stayed bridge proposed to be constructed across the Volta River from Volivo to Darfur, Adidome, on the Eastern Corridor project. The construction of the Volivo Bridge will include 1.5 kilometer approach road, a toll plaza, and rest stop as ancillary facilities. The project is being funded by a loan received from the Japan International Cooperation Agency, JICA. Currently, Mr. Speaker, the selection of a consultant for the project is completed. The contract for the design, review, and construction supervision was signed on 24 June 2019. Detailed design and review of the design was completed in January 2020. Currently, Mr. Speaker, procurement of the work contract is underway. Tenders were received from prospective bidders on 11 June 2021. Evaluation of tenders is ongoing and is expected to be completed by end of September 2021. An award of the work contract is expected in the fourth quarter of 2021. According to the implementation plan, actual construction of the bridge is scheduled to commence in February 2022, but this may take off ahead of schedule. The construction period will be 48 calendar months. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to remind the Honorable Minister that I've taken copious notice of all your responses, and I'll keep track records. Thank you so much. I'm grateful.
Very well, Honorable Minister. Be so advised. Honorable Member for Saboba is the next Honorable Member to ask a question. Honorable Joseph Nipe Bukari, question number 114. Very well. Is there also the person for 115? Is not there. Question number 116. Honorable Member for Time. Mr. Adam Asulemana. Yes, can I ask your question?
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to ask the Minister for Roads and Highways what plans are there to construct the following roads in the Time constituency: Namasan Brody to Sampa Road, Badu Junction to Badu Road, and Brohane Junction to Brohane. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Namasa to Brode to Sampa road is 23 kilometers long and forms part of the regional road R93 from Wenchi to Sampa. The road is gravel surfaced and in poor condition. Currently, Mr. Speaker, the first 8 kilometers of the road, that is from Namasa to Duadaso, has been awarded on contract for upgrading to bituminous surface. The title of the contract is Upgrading of the BB to Sampa Road of length 8 kilometers. The project commenced on 17 February 2020 and is scheduled for completion on 16 February 2022. The Speaker, works executed to date include clearing and drainage works, with work progress estimated at 5% fiscal completion. The future program. Mr. Speaker, engineering studies for the upgrading of the remaining 15-kilometer stretch of the road has been completed and will be considered in the 2022 budget for implementation. 2, the Badu Junction to Badu Road. Mr. Speaker, this is a 23-kilometer long road and is located in the 10th district of the Bono region. The road is in fair condition. Currently, Mr. Speaker, the road was awarded on contract for upgrading to bituminous surface. The project commenced on 25th September 2008 and was scheduled for completion on 17th October 2012. Work progress is estimated at 90.5% physical completion, and the contractor has suspended work. The sealed surface has developed defects such as potholes, galleries, and lavering. Mr. Speaker, the project has delayed unduly, and every effort, including warning letters to get the contractor back to site to complete the project, are proved futile. The necessary steps are being taken to terminate the contract for non-performance. The future program is that the outstanding works, including defective sections, have been repackaged for consideration in 2022 annual budget once existing contract is terminated. 3, the Brohani Junction to Brohani Feeder Road of length 6.90 kilometers. Mr. Speaker, this road is graveled road in fair condition. It is located in the 10th district of the Bono region. Currently, Mr. Speaker, contract for upgrading of this road was awarded on 31st August 2020. Major activities to be executed under the contract include clearing, formation of road and earthworks, concrete U-drains, construction of new culvert, primer seal and seal, as well as safety furniture and markings. Possession of site has been given and contractor is mobilizing to site. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes,
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Minister, on the baby road, when it rains, the people beyond Brody, they are cut off. So, what urgent steps can you undertake to at least reduce the level of suffering that the people are suffering, considering the fact that we have done 5% from 2020 and we are supposed to complete in 2022. So what urgent steps can you do to reduce the inconveniences on that road for us?
Yes, Honorable Minister.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I am not unaware of these problems, and I would want to plead with my colleague in particular, and by extension all my colleagues, that when any of them faces any such emergency critical situations, please link up with me quickly so that we put it under our emergency program. Of course, whatever happens, any disaster that happens on our roads anywhere in the country, we get the information through our regional officers, regional directors. But you know, some of these are emergency situations. So when they happen, please don't assume that our own internal arrangements will pick it up. once we are here together, bring it to my attention, and we have a routine maintenance program so that we take it up. So we will take measures to ensure that our people are not cut off. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister and Right Honorable Speaker. On the Badu road, especially the Timeso Junction, I think to Badu, the road is worse than when it was started in 2008 now. I don't know whether you have that information. And looking at the termination, you spoke about trying to terminate the contracts and making provisions in the 2022. I am also making an appeal, just like I did with the Namasan Road, Namasan Road, if it was possible to give us some attention on that road, because for some time, drivers and commuters are not able to ply that road. And finally, on the Brohani Road, I want to find out.
Honorable Member, you're entitled to one at a time.
Okay.
So let him answer the first. Yes, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yes, Mr. Speaker, I want to assure my honorable colleague that we are giving due attention to all the roads in your area, as mentioned. That's why if you look at my answer for the Brohani Junction to Brohani itself, the feeder road, the 6.9 kilometer stretch, we have re-awarded, quickly for another contractor to come to site to remedy the situation. And the contractor is mobilizing. And I can give you the particulars of the contractor so that you follow up and we work together on it. I thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you, Minister, and thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I'll be happy to get a contractor, and I want to know when will the contractor come on site. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as aforementioned, the contractor is mobilizing, and mobilization should be between 3 weeks and 4 weeks. Those mobilization will mean the new contractor visiting the site, getting the site camp and putting up that camp, and transferring all his equipment to site, get prepared for their project. So let's give ourselves between 3 weeks and 1 month, the contractor will be on site. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. I'll move on to the next question. Question number 117. It's in the name of the honorable member for South Tong. Very well, I'll move on. Okay. Question number 118. Another member for Busa South, Dr. Clement Abak.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to ask the Minister for Roads and Highways when work on the following roads will be completed. Sandema Doninga, Riaga Fumbisi, Fumbisi UAC. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Sandema to Doninga Road is part of the Sandima Doninga Santijan Road, which is 30.5 kilometer long and forms part of the regional road R1H1. The road links Busa North and Busa South districts in the Upper East region and continues to the Upper West region. The road is gravel surfaced and of the poor condition. Currently, Mr. Speaker, the road is being constructed under two blocks as follows. 1. Rehabilitation of Sandima to Doninga to Santijan, a distance of 15 kilometers. The contract commenced on 3rd November 2016 and was rescheduled for completion on 1st May 2021. Earthworks and construction of a major box culvert have been completed. Work progress is estimated at 20% fiscal completion. The contractor is not on site due to delayed payment for work done. Efforts are being made to get the contractor back to site to complete the project. 2. Rehabilitation of Sandima to Dolinga to Santijan Road from kilometer 15 to kilometer 30.5. Mr. Speaker, the contract commenced on 3rd November 2016 and was scheduled for completion on 2nd May 2018. The contractor suspended works after construction of concrete U-drains and culverts of various sizes. Several warning letters were issued to get the contractor back to site, but to no avail. Therefore, the contract has been terminated. The future program for this road, Mr. Speaker, is that the outstanding works have been repackaged for consideration in the 2022 budget for implementation. Roman number 2, Wiaga to Fumbisi Road. The Speaker, this road is under the project titled Upgrading of Chuchuriga to Sandema to UAC Road, covering a distance of 40 kilometers. The above project commenced on 16 September 2016 and was originally scheduled for completion on 17 March 2019. The project completion date has been extended to 18 December 2021. The contractor has executed stabilized base and primary seal works on the Wiaga to Fumbisi section. The progress of work is estimated at 45% fiscal completion. The contractor is not presently on site, and every effort is being made to get the contractor back to site to complete the project by 18 December 2021. Roman number 3, the Fumbisi-Biasi Road. There are 3 ongoing projects under this road. A. Regraveling of Wiaga Fumbisi to Wiaga Road between kilometer 27 and 31. And regraveling of Wiaga Fumbisi to Wiaza Road from kilometer 31 to kilometer 35, and same road from kilometer 35 to kilometer 40. First, the regraveling of Wiaga to Fumbisi to Wiasi Road. Mr. Speaker, the project commenced on 14 September 2019 and was scheduled for completion on 13 September 2020. The contractor has executed drainage works, that is construction of culverts and earthworks. The progress of work is estimated at 45% fiscal completion. The contractor is not presently on site and every effort is being made to get the contractor back to site to complete the project by 31st December 2021. B. Regraveling of Wiaga to Fumbezi to Yazi Road between kilometer 31 and 35. The project commenced on 14 September 2019 and was scheduled for completion on 13 September 2020. The project has been completed and is in defect liability period. 3. Regraveling of Wiaga Road between kilometer 35 to 40. The project commenced on 14 September 2019 and was scheduled for completion on 13 September 2020. The project has again been completed and is in defect liability period. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in the Minister's response regarding the rehabilitation of the Sanma-Doninga-Santijan Road, he makes it very clear that the delay is as a result of delayed payment for work done. I want to find out whether payments have now been made to the contractor, how soon the contractor will return to site.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, arrangements are ongoing now for all contractors across the country to be paid. And payment to contractors are from two main sources, either from GOG source, that is Ministry of Finance, or from the road fund. And I am happy to announce that the payment from GOG, Ministry of Finance, started about a month ago and is ongoing, and it covers every single contractor that has a certificate there. Hopefully, the Road Fund Board will be inaugurated by next week. We have already made the schedule with the amount in our coffers now to cover every single contractor who has a certificate with the road fund, and it's done on percentage pro rata basis. We are ready for it, and as soon as the names come out, the board will be inaugurated within 24 hours, and we are ready for them to start payment to complement what is going on with Ministry of Finance. So I can assure you that this contractor will be paid in maximum 10 days from now to enable you go back to site. And you can keep in touch with me on this assurance. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Minister is very confident about payments being made upon the inauguration of the Road Fund Board, and I hope that is also executed in good time. Mr. Speaker, regarding kilometer 15 to 30.5, the Minister indicates that the contract has been terminated after several letters have been written to the contractor. He then goes on to speak about a future program, where he speaks about repackaging it for consideration in the 2020 budget for implementation. Mr. Speaker, this is my worry. We have gone from a definite statement of ongoing work to a conditional provision for the same project for 2020. Can the minister assure me and this House that this consideration will become a reality in terms of the 2020 budget?
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I can give that assurance in the sense that immediately after the mid-year budget, tomorrow, my ministry will start putting all roles expected to be captured under the 2022 budget together. And the work is even ongoing now, to be fed into the November budget to be presented for 2022. So I want to assure you that we are working on all such projects, including this particular project. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
All right. You have done three already. This is very well.
I will keep it brief, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Regarding the Ruega Fumbisi UAC Road, the minister indicates that the contractor is not presently on site, and every effort is being made to get the contractor back to the site to complete the project by December 18th, 2021. Mr. Speaker, this road clearly was captured in the 2020 budget and was again reflected in the mid-year budget review for 2020 on page 36. Mr. Speaker, can the minister tell us why the contractor is not currently on site, and perhaps when he would return to site?
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have given a vivid account of all the roads, and I thought my honorable colleague was going to commend government on the 2 fully completed roads. This was a bit delayed, as I have said and as I've stated in my answer, due to delayed payment. And that is why I have assured you that the elaborate program being put in place now by government, the contractor is going to be paid and will return to site. And we commit the contractor to the timelines and schedules, by 31st December, and if we make money available, the contractor can deliver. I'm sure about that. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
For the sake of the record, I do appreciate what is being done. But I pose that question because the rules are different. And the response he gave to the earlier question in his written response was not reflected in the question I just asked. Just for the record. Thank you.
Very well. We'll move on to question number 138. The Honourable Member for Nadoli Kalio, Anthony Mwikara Suma.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. I rise to ask the Minister for Roads and Highways what plans the ministry has to construct a bridge over the Bagonlu stream between Sigduri and Kankanzia to enable the people from the southwestern corridor to have access to the district capital, especially during the rainy season. Thank you.
Yes, Honourable Minister.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Sigduri and Kankanzi are communities located along the Nadori to Nator to Tako feeder road measuring 22 kilometers in the Nadori district of the Upper West region. The section of the road between Sidori and Kankazi crosses an intermittent stream channel that has been observed to be a major hindrance to mobility during the wet season. Currently, Mr. Speaker, there is no program on the bridge. The future program is that engineering studies would be undertaken to determine the appropriate hydraulic capacity of the bridge by the end of third quarter 2021 for consideration in the 2022 annual budget. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Member.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Honorable Minister, for the refreshing assurance. At least you are indicating that some work will be done to deal with this age-old problem that has even caused deaths in my constituency. But from your technical perspective and the technical perspective of the ministry, Honorable Minister, is the bridge the only alternative that could solve the problem from your technical perspective?
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, with the highest respect, I didn't get the question properly.
Honorable Member, can you repeat the question?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Minister, what I indicated was that from the technical perspective of the ministry, is the construction of the bridge the only solution, or there are other alternatives that you can explore, especially in the interim to give relief to the people? Thank you.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I couldn't have agreed with my honorable colleague the more. That is why the second part of my answer, the second paragraph under background, I stated that, Mr. Speaker, with your permission, I repeat, a section of the road between Sidori and Kankanzi crosses an intermittent stream channel that has been observed to be a major hindrance to mobility during the wet season. So I agree with you, and we have taken notice of that. We have observed it, that it has been causing intermittent problems and challenges to the people during rainy season. That is why we are undertaking engineering studies to make sure that we capture it in 2022 budget, next year budget, to deal with it and to make sure that it does not reoccur going into the future. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Minister, thank you once again. Lastly, from your response, it's clear that by the close of September, we'll have the engineering report, which I'll be glad if you put me in the know. And then, do I have your assurance that, having acquired that, we will get that feature in the 2022 budget? Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'm sorry, once more, I don't know whether it's because of the mask. Once more, I didn't get the...
Honorable Member, for the record, kindly remove your mask so he can hear you clearly.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Minister, I just wanted an assurance. And what I indicated was that from your response, by the close of September, we will have the engineering report. I'm saying that will that be available? And having acquired that, available to me, and having acquired that, do we have your assurance that the project will reflect the 2022 budget? Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yes, I can give you that assurance. That is why I indicated that the engineering studies would be undertaken ahead of the 2022 budget, so that before the budget, the budget is always presented in November. So it will be for that time, and it will be captured in 2022 budget. Thank you, Mr.
Very well. I'll move to question number 139. Honorable Member for Kankwe North. Yes, Honorable Leader.
Yeah, right now, Speaker, our colleague for Kankwe North is not here. With your indulgence, Mr. Speaker, you did call question number 117, but our colleague wasn't there at the time.
Honorable Member, are you asking the question on behalf of?
No, I'm making an appeal.
If you are not, let me decide what to do with those who were not here.
Okay.
So now I am on 139.
Yeah,
right
now,
Speaker,
our colleague
for her.
139 is not here, but somebody, I can't see anybody who is available.
Very
to ask a
well.
question.
Now, if there are any applications, I'll listen.
Thank you very much for your indulgence, Mr. Speaker. I'm making an appeal for our colleague, Honorable Nikpe, question number 115, to ask his question, to be followed by Honorable Oyume, who is also here now.
They are here. I want to hear them. I want to know why they were not present when their questions were called. If I'm satisfied with the answer, I may give them the second chance. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We had a committee meeting, and initially my thinking was that we're sitting at 2. The Finance Committee were meeting on the 6th floor. I didn't get any notice we're sitting at 11.
Notice that the House will sit at 11 was given on Friday. It's part of the Business Committee report of this week. We will sit at 11 instead of 2 all through. And so I'm only recognizing that you are at the Finance Committee meeting. Right. So you may ask question number 114.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity once again for me to ask the Minister for Roads and Highways when the construction of a bridge over River Oti will commence. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the proposed bridge over River Oti will link Saboba to the Togo boundary. This will facilitate the movement of goods and services between Saboba and Togo boundary. Currently, Mr. Speaker, there is no program for the construction of the bridge. However, the future program is that detailed engineering studies for identification of the appropriate type of bridge will be undertaken and considered in our future program. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Minister in the last paragraph is stating that they will identify the appropriate type of bridge to be constructed over the river. But, Mr. Speaker, in 2015, engineers from his outfit, the Minister of Roads and Highways, visited that same river did some studies and did some designs. I want to find out whether those designs still exist in the office, or he will want to vary them and do a new design for that river.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my answer under future program, I did indicate that detailed engineering studies will be done for the identification of the appropriate bridge. It does not mean that no studies had been done on it at all. You could start engineering studies, perhaps under a feasibility, but you need to do a detailed engineering studies to establish exactly what you want. So some work is obviously done on it because it has been identified as a problem. No, but we are doing detailed engineering of it before we agree on what to do exactly, and we shall include it in next year's budget. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, I'm asking these questions because we at the Sabuba side of River Oti are fast losing the lands within the Togolese side because they are encroaching upon it, thinking that the River Oti is the end of our country. But we have a lot of land at the other side of the river. I would want to urge the minister, as a matter of agency, the designs they are doing in good time and fix a bridge so that we will not lose any of our territories to the Togolese side. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it's a welcome advice, it's a good advice, and I thank my honorable colleague for that, and it will be taken into consideration. Thank you.
Yes, you may proceed to question number 115.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, once again, for me to ask the Minister for Roads and Highways the steps being taken to construct a bridge over Kwalaba River to allow constituents to easily access both sides of the river, especially during rainy seasons and when the river overflows its bank and floods the area. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there is an existing steel bridge over Papa River on the Yendi-Zabuba Road. The hydraulic capacity of the bridge is inadequate and gets overtopped by water during rainy season. Currently, Mr. Speaker, there is no program for the reconstruction of the Papa Bridge, but a future program that the Ministry of Roads and Highways is in the process of signing an MOU for detailed engineering design and construction of this bridge, Papa Bridge. Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, the Minister indicates that for future programs, the ministry is signing an MOU. I want to find out from him when will that MOU be signed and put into action.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we have all the technical information and we are in talks with about 3 potential contractors. Any of them could do a good work for us. So I want to assure you that within the next 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, this MOU will be signed, because we want to do a thorough work and to examine all the three and choose the best, because this is a problematic bridge. So we are being careful, and within 3 weeks, the MOU will be signed, and then the contractor that will be selected eventually will move to site to work on this bridge. Thank you.
Yeah. Mr. Speaker, I'm happy to hear from the Minister that within 2 weeks, the MOU will be signed. I want to encourage that Saboba has a very big market that is patronized by people from 3 regions, including the northern region, Northeast, Savannah, and Oti. From now onwards, Saboba will be cut off because that river will be flooded. And for all those who will do their business in Saboba and earn a living, will all be deprived of that living. I want to urge that the minister go by his words, so that by 2 weeks, the MOU is signed and we'll get a permanent solution to this problem that reoccurs every year. Mr. Speaker, I thank the minister and hope that within 2 weeks, I will hear good.
Very well, the Honorable Minister. Yes, Honorable Member for South Tongue.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I like to ask the Minister for Roads and Highways what steps the ministry is taking to urgently reconstruct broken box culverts, bridges that are hampering movement from one community to the other on the following roads.
With specific guidelines, with specific procedures, we will be able to have a well-coordinated, a well-arranged intervention that will benefit specific communities and the nation. We are in a country where infrastructural development is a big issue. We need a lot of resources to do that. If at the end of the day, we are able to get companies to even, at least, provide 1% or 2% of their net profits in this intervention, I believe that we will be able to cash in on their profits to advance the cause of this country. The Speaker, on this note and with these few words and with your opportunity that you've given me, I want to say thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable.
Thank you.
Second Deputy Speaker to take the chair.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to this very important motion towards enacting an act to regulate corporate social responsibilities. Mr. Speaker, the concept of corporate social responsibility has become a very important tool all over the world. CSRs ensures that as corporate organizations achieve a balance of economic, environmental, and social imperatives, they at the same time address the expectations of stakeholders and shareholders. Mr. Speaker, the state of Ghana still does not have a comprehensive law that regulates the corporate social responsibilities of the numerous industries we have in this country. Because of that, the sector is not regulated by law. Because the sector is not regulated by law, they do what pleases them and at any time they feel like it. Mr. Speaker, it is important that we follow the steps of some countries. England is one, India another one, and also the European Union. They came among other things, through this private member's motion, to put together a CSR Act that is cogent, equitable, and sustainable in nature. Mr. Speaker, the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, UNIDO, has categorized about 9 areas where CSRs are or have made strides. Those areas are: 1, environmental management, eco-efficiency, responsible sourcing, employee and community relations, social equity, gender balance, human rights, good governance, and anti-corruption. Mr. Speaker, you will agree with me that if the areas I have mentioned above are imposed on corporate organizations to invest in, our society will not only be improved, but will have made our societies the ultimate winners. The lack of legislation of the sort has led to deplorable state of some of our cities and towns, such as Obuasi. Mr. Speaker, I would like to end my contributions on this debate with a few quotations to summarize my point. A quote from Bill Ford says, and I quote, "Creating a strong business and building a better world are not conflicting goals. They are both essential ingredients for long-term success." Another quote from Anita Raddick, and I quote, "The business of businesses should not be about money. It should be about responsibility. It should be about public good, not private good." Mr. Speaker, with these few words, I support the motion that for a bill to regulate the corporate social responsibility. I thank you for the opportunity.
Let me give it to the young man. Yes, I'll come to you, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving the opportunity to contribute to this important motion, which is going to affect society in a positive way. In every society, you may be endowed with certain resources which you may have to tap for individual benefits. But for want of resources and technical know-how, corporate institutions may take up the opportunity to exploit these natural resources for the benefit and good of society. However, in doing such a business, Mr. Speaker, it may have some downing effects on the people who are directly associated with such corporate institutions. In so doing, it is appropriate for such corporate bodies to contribute towards the responsibility of making sure that such societies benefit from their operations. It is not only limited to the extractive and oil industries, where in a summit and workshop it came out that people living in such areas were suffering directly from the operation and chemical usage, where kidney problems are associated with new childbirth, and which has to be addressed. But look at the situation, Mr. Speaker, we don't have any recognized laws which are putting pressure on such institutions to alleviate the suffering of such masses. Not only the industries which are operating in manufacturing and extractive industries, but we come to our local areas where we have to also look at it, where people are endowed with authority to take care of natural resources like land and forest resources, and they dissipate and sell such land and such natural resources without making sure that they contribute towards the well-being of their people. For example, in Ghana, we have traditional authorities sell lands and then take the benefits without contribute directly to the infrastructure development of such communities. There should also be equally laws to pressurize our authorities, that's the traditional authorities, where they can contribute towards road construction, the construction of water, and other things to benefit the people who live in such areas. That not aside, when we are talking about the effect on society, we must talk about taxes paid by such corporate bodies, Taxes are for the general good of society to contribute towards public goods. But when it comes to their direct effect on people, then what you're talking about corporate responsibility should not be linked to taxation, but should stand on its own, where laws should be made to make sure that such corporate bodies contribute towards social good. And then when it comes to modern technology development, we have new companies, new corporate bodies coming up with new way of doing things. For example, those who are using the airwaves, they have direct effects on people who are making use of them. How are they also coming towards the people's responsibility of taking care of themselves? So, Mr. Speaker, I believe it is in good direction for this August House to make sure that there is a corporate responsibility laws that should make sure that it doesn't matter which industry are you operating in, so long as the people are consuming and making use of your product, they are also sharing in the benefits that come out. So if you make laws that will make sure that the corporate bodies contribute directly towards the benefit of society for consuming their goods, and then making sure that they also have that inner belief, inner satisfaction that they are part of the company, they are part of the body, and they share in the glory, in the benefit, it will help the society in a way that it also makes sure the companies may do well, do better, and control the good of society. Mr. Speaker, on this note, I end my case by saying that this August House will strategize and make sure they come out with laws that will compel corporate bodies to contribute for the welfare, well-being, security, and development of society. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for giving the opportunity to contribute to this motion.
Dr. Noel Quest.
I want to thank the maker of the statement. The motion, and would wish to add my voice to the fact that it is a hard time we really get laws to regulate corporate social responsibility. Mr. Speaker, I am the son of a miner, and today, when I visit towns like Pristia, Takwa, Obuasi, and I see the level of development over there and compare them to that of Johannesburg in South Africa, I wonder, with all these years of gold exploitation, what have we been able to do with it? Yes, it is true that government had revenue from it. So many companies came and left State Gold Mining Corporation. It is also true that individuals might have benefited from it, might have made good name from it. I don't want to be individualistic. I don't want to mention names. But what about the people of, let's say, Obuasi? How do we share the benefits? Say that probably the state as Ghana might have benefited. What about individuals? We had a lot of people who had good cars, big. But what about the people of Obuasi? Their roads, alternative livelihood programs. Now the gold mine has gone down, and we do not have something to replace it. If you go to Pristia, it is very, very terrible. Their roads are so bad. And yet, we always want corporate social responsibility is something that is like freebies. If you want to do it, the level that you can do it, fine. But we must start thinking about a law, because when you the companies do whatever they want to do. Some of these monies that might have been meant for corporate social responsibility,
whereby companies integrate social and environmental concerns in their business operations and interactions with their stakeholders. In this definition, again, is the assumption that companies are those who take advantage of this exercise. It is a fact, but it is not only a management strategy, but it is also a means of reaching out to underprivileged, a means of reaching out to societies and communities in which these organizations operate. Mr. Speaker, it is also true that governments as yet have not come to a consensus on the approach or approaches for the implementation of corporate social responsibility. With the results, many people have taken the exercise at will and do just what pleases them. But may I remind the House, Mr. Speaker, that when we look at sustainability as enshrined in the Sustainable Development Goals, we realize that the key element of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals will hinge on people, partnership, prosperity, the planet which is for the environment, and prosperity. And for me, Honorable Speaker, it is the corporate social responsibility becomes a vehicle through which we can harness the protection of the planet or the environment, through which we can share prosperity of the planet. And in sharing prosperity, I call the House to support this motion so we have a legislation that clearly mandates organizations and also supports organizations to do their basic functions in compliance with Sustainable Development Goals. Why do I say this? What does it profit us when organizations have undermined or have degraded the environment in which they operate and turn around to give freebies to these organizations? And I dare say, if it will cost us more to salvage the damage or the lack of attention for the environment in which we operate, and only turn around to give freebies to these organizations, then we may not be doing ourselves any good, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I also want to point to the fact that we should begin to look at how we measure organizations that embark on corporate social responsibility activities. Hitherto, it has been for those who make the biggest profit, or the multinational organizations or international corporations who have the wherewithal to support communities or support individuals or micro groups. But I want this piece of legislation, when it is put forward, to consider not just activities of the big guys or the multinational companies, but even SMEs and micro businesses, to ensure that their operations are not inimical to our environment, but rather promote the very existence of the society in which they operate. Again, I want to support this motion because I think that the issue of corporate social responsibility is not only a strategic management issue. It is also a means of giving out to charity. Yes. It is also a means by which we can support the very communities in which the organizations or businesses operate. So that even though we look at a global benefit or well-being under corporate social responsibility, it must also be the case that the very society or the immediate environment that organizations operate in become beneficiaries of the goodwill or the products or the benefits of organizations, or the benefits that organizations produce. Mr. Speaker, to conclude, I would say that we ought to find space in this bill that brings out the key indicators for measuring compliance to corporate social responsibility. And within that measurement, We want to see how the organization is promoting their profitability and whether it is all about profit and not about the environment. And if it's about the environment, how are we ensuring sustainable development such that after these organizations have operated and made their profit, we do not leave the environment worse off such that future generations would suffer. And finally, we want to see how society or the communities are incorporated in the definition of corporate social responsibility. So it doesn't only become the organization's tool to reaching out to the public through freebies or charities to promote their brands and to take the benefit of advertisement and things like that, but it must also be the expectation of the community in which organizations operate so that we can harmonize the activities of corporate social responsibility in our country. In so doing, I want to see a self-regulating business model that helps companies to be socially accountable to themselves as organizations and to key stakeholders within the catchment areas in which they operate. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for allowing me space to support this motion.
Honorable members, from Tema East, let me jump to Tema West. Yes, Honorable Carlos.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to commend the mover of the motion for coming up at this state or at this juncture when Ghana has achieved a middle or lower middle income country status where we are supposed to manage a lot of these developmental activities ourselves. Mr. Speaker, it is interesting to note that most of these corporate social responsibilities that emanate from private sector find or lend themselves to areas where we least want them. It is important that people who are prepared to, as it were, assist in our socio-economic and environmental development must direct this assistance to areas where government requests them. Mr. Speaker, I say this because of how CSR or corporate social responsibility is used or directed in this country. People even give it to their own close relatives or relations, especially when they can capture same under the list of corporate what is recognized as corporate social responsibility under the IRS or sorry, Internal Revenue or GRA. I appreciate the fact also that as we speak, Mr. Speaker, there is a corporate social responsibility document or policy in Ghana. And this was signed off by the Honorable Spiogabra in 2016, when the then government of Ghana realized that it was important that we get to that stage where corporate social responsibility will be directed in a way which will support the abilities of government and, for that matter, run Ghana or develop Ghana in a way that we expect. In the early 90s, when almost every country was trying to see how they would channel their corporate, their CSR, Ghana jumped onto the bandwagon because that was when we started seeing a lot of FDIs. In fact, we had ad hoc measures or tiny snippets of laws that govern these CSR as a legal framework, which did not augur well for the direction in which government expected it to go. So in 2005, when the new Partnership for Africa's Development, NEPADS, Africa Peer Review Mechanism met, they recommended that Ghana must have or must clarify its concept of CSR with its efforts to promote it among other stakeholders like governments, private sector organizations, and the like. Mr. Speaker, this led the government that preceded that of President Nado to organize a stakeholders forum to come up with a framework to guide a policy of corporate social responsibility. And as I speak, this document lies in the Ministry of Trade, which I believe that if Mr. Speaker would, of course, it started from the minority leader, yes, who intelligently at that moment thought that we should direct this CSR appropriately. But the document was signed off by Honorable Kospiu Gabra. I would recommend to Mr. Speaker to allow the law or any law that's going to emanate from this motion to commence from this already established document which is lying at the Ministry of Trade in the form of a policy which has never seen the light of day and of course not implementable because it's only in the form of a policy. I am of the view that if we are able to come up with a law to back this policy, it will not only inure to the benefit of Ghana, but also to individual communities which hitherto have been deprived of common developmental projects such as borehole water and so on and so forth. So, Mr. Speaker, with these few words, I'd like to commend the maker of the mover of the motion, and I support that we pick the document from the Ministry of Trade and put it in the law form for it to work. Thank you.
Yes, honorable members, before I come to leadership, let me invite one from each side, then I come to leadership. So, okay, then Honorable Deputy Whip.
Thank you, leader, for choosing me. Mr. Speaker, I rise to speak or comment on the motion on the floor. Mr. Speaker, from where I sit, I was here when the motion was moved. Yesterday, I was here when debate commenced, and today, I'm still here. Listening to contributions from both sides, it looks as if the House is in support of the motion. I haven't heard any opposing view on this motion. And Mr. Speaker, permit me to play the devil's advocate. I know, Mr. Speaker, the public and the corporate world who are going to be impacted by our actions or inactions after the outcome of this motion will be judging us. And based on that, we must look on both sides of the superior experienced men in this house. I was looking at it from some perspectives. What do we is speeding, which will be leading to a crash in the corporate arena. With these few words, Mr. Speaker, judging from the time that we are, that government is even thinking of giving stimulus packages to revive the corporate world, to be able to recruit more people, controlling unemployment, and I don't think that we should overburden the corporate world. With these few words, Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, honorable member for.
Thank you, Mr. Trinity, to add my voice as to whether or not it is apt for Ghana to regulate, or if you like, enact laws with respect to social responsibility. Mr. Speaker, development in Ghana should not only be hinged on the government or the public sector, but rather an all-encompassing and comprehensive strategies should be outlined to be able to include the private sector into development. Mr. Speaker, the quest of government to ensure a cogent, equitable, and sustainable national development can only be championed with the inclusion
of the private and corporate sectors. Mr. Speaker, when we say corporate social responsibility, it could simply be defined as a corporate strategy whereby businesses are made to better society. Mr. Speaker, alternatively, corporate social responsibility is the responsibility of an organization for the impact of its decisions and activities on society and the environment through transparent and ethical behavior. Mr. Speaker, listening to my very good friend, Deputy Chief Whip, on the other side, talking about the fact that we should mention one country that have regulated, or if you like, enacted laws to deal with corporate social responsibility. Today, when you go to South Africa, there are mechanisms that are regulating corporate social responsibilities, and they have even added sanctions to corporate entities in South Africa that fails to, as it were, adhere to the principles of corporate social responsibility. There are also mechanisms that are regulating corporate social responsibility in the United States of America. If you get to Japan, China, Denmark, United Kingdom, and China. And all these countries are having systems and mechanisms that are regulating corporate social responsibility. Mr. Speaker, one critical advantage for us as a nation to be able to regulate corporate social responsibility. The United Nations have made these studies that sustainable development has shown that man is using the limited natural resources at a faster rate than it is being replaced. What it means is that apart from government strategies in dealing with sustainable development, there should be systems that, not necessarily under compulsion, but mechanisms that are regulating and including the private sector into sustainable development. Mr. Speaker, there's always a paradox and its business display that lingers around with the mention of corporate social responsibility in Africa, and at best publicly viewed with both skepticism and cynicism. These attitudes are common in the African context as a result of our historical, cultural, and economic and political realities, as well as considerations. This is because there is an inclination to believe that businesses in the corporate social responsibility are motivated purely by self-interest and also an attitude of scornful or jaded negativity. And these are not always true, and as such, a great zeal of eminence must be attached to the execution of corporate social responsibility in Africa and Ghana for that matter. Mr. Speaker, with these words, I wholeheartedly support an enactment of corporate social responsibility, and there should be mechanisms that will regulate corporate social responsibility and even learn from the South African way of adding punitive measures to companies or entities who refuses to practice corporate social responsibility in Ghana. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, let me come to leadership. Honorable Minority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for the opportunity to contribute to the motion ably moved by the Whip, the Honorable Ano Dompre. But Mr. Speaker, I support the motion, but will request that he and his team rethink the construct of the motion. The construct of the motion, because, Mr. Speaker, as observed by many, corporate social responsibility is voluntary, ethical, and social responsibility. And therefore, for Parliament to want to pass a legislation, it can be construed or misconstrued as a disincentive to corporate governance and independence in our country. And it can also be, as have been observed by the Honorable Ahmed, repugnant to the provisions of Article 108 of the Constitution of creating a tax obligation which can only emanate from government. So, Mr. Speaker, probably if I were to contribute to deepening the motion, I would say that this House calls for responsible, ethical, corporate responsibility in Ghana, or responsible, ethical, social responsiveness. But to legislate, and as has been observed by the Honorable Ahinkura, I had the privilege to be at the Ministry of Trade and Industry, and indeed, it was my wish to leave a legacy behind after the competition policy to have a corporate social responsibility policy. So, Mr. Speaker, work began with some consultation of the stakeholders. Mr. Speaker, in order that, as the motion reads, Mr. Speaker, and I quote, that this Honorable House passes a law to mainstream and streamline corporate social responsibility in Ghana to ensure, I would say, social responsiveness, as I have said, equitable and sustainable national development. You may not be able to tie the hands of corporate entities. Speaker, in order that I appreciate the depth of my contribution, I have gone to do research, organizational stages and cultural phases, a critical review and a consultative model of corporate social responsibility development. Francois Moine, I'll let the table have it, University Catholic, and then Hall University Business School, Adam Lindgren, then Valerie Swain, University Catholic. And Mr. Speaker, I just want to highlight some of the concerns that they have raised in their writing, and probably so that this Parliament is guided. And it says that what do we want to build as corporate values? To create an organization culture that promotes openness, does not focus solely on self-interest, and adopt other regarding sentiments. Mr. Speaker, only last month, I was in Tamale when the Vice President of the Republic, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, came to Tamale Secondary School, his his former school. Alma mater, I'll do. Alma mater, I'll do. Alma mater, I'll do. To commission a girls' dormitory for Tamale Secondary School, Tamasco. Corporate social responsibility undertaken by MTN, voluntary. But if you go to legislate, and you are even thinking of additional corporate tax, does government policy support that? And will the money go into corporate social responsibility? But Mr. Speaker, as for commending the motion, we need a policy guidance and a legal framework to guide corporate social responsibility. I have no difficulty with it. But Mr. Speaker, in Ghana, take for instance all the major mining companies. Newmont, Kenyasi, they are struggling. No school, no proper drinking water, no quality water. Take Anglo Gold Ashanti and look at how deprived Obuasi is. Then you take gold fields in the Junkwa Ofin area. That is why I support the thoughts behind this motion, but not the construct of the motion. So, Mr. Speaker, we are beginning to wake up these corporate entities to do more. You see, Mr. Speaker, you can be born generous. Others are not generous. You can't legislate on generosity. This is what we are coming to do. You see, corporate social responsibility is corporate generosity, that beyond the sale of our products, what reputation do we have as a company? That's what corporate social responsibility is about. So, do you legislate on generosity of corporate entities? I have a difficulty with it. But to guide it with policy, I wholeheartedly and fully support it. And I believe, Mr. Speaker, the appropriate minister is the Minister for Trade and Industry. And as I said, far back 2013, I believe after launching the competition policy, I held the first major stakeholder consultation on a corporate social responsibility policy for Ghana. That must be the first step. But to legislate and to think of 2%, Mr. Speaker, today, how happy we are. And I must pay royalties and donations to Professor Michael Quay, former Speaker of this House, that today a member can rise and move a private member's motion. But it was not ever his thinking that in the use of this procedure, we will not respect the provisions of the Constitution under Article 108 of the Constitution. Because this one, as the Honorable Ahmed have observed, and Mr. Speaker, I would also beg to quote, Parliament shall not, unless the bill is introduced or the motion is introduced by or on behalf of the President, proceed upon a bill. When it suits you, you agree. 108.81, the imposition of taxation or the alteration of taxation otherwise by reduction. But, Mr. Speaker, that's why it's a debate. So, leader, you are entitled to your thinking. Mr. Speaker, if you proceed with a bill, yes, you can come through a bill. So hear me right. But let the bill be spearheaded and shepherded by a Minister of Trade in the name of the President. Then you are walking right. But not a private member's bill. No, I disagree. That will be constitutionally repugnant. But a minister in the name of the President can bring a bill. So that's why I'm saying that let the Minister of Trade and Industry and the Minister of Finance consult and come further. This House cannot just on its own wake up and start imposing 2% corporate taxes. We can. We have the power to impose taxes. But by the construction of the Constitution, it says it must be one which is introduced and on behalf of the President. Indeed, Mr. Speaker, this is what scared the late Honorable Peter Alajete and Co. from shying away from giving meaning to private members' bill. Go back to his ruling on this matter. They were afraid of the constitutionality of accepting private members' motion on the imposition and initiation of taxes. But, Mr. Speaker, as I said, I have gone to do some reading, and I'm still quoting from my research document. This emerging research stream features both conceptual development and empirical investigation, and it asks the question, Mr. Speaker, what is it that we want to achieve with corporate social responsibility? Why I again support the movers of the motion, but again not in this construct. There are many times that corporate entities in Ghana end up giving funeral donations and outdooring donations and behave as if that is corporate social responsibility. That cannot. When you provide a bus to go to the funeral of an employee, you cannot equate that to corporate social responsibility. But we must also be mindful that corporate social responsibility is a function of the profitability of the corporate entity. How much they do and how much they give will depend upon the extent to which they are profitable. Accepting or not, tax is a cost to them, and that can undermine their ability to be able to perform that role. Mr. Speaker, I've also gone further again, and I conclude with it. As I said, I decided to do some small research while sitting here. Corporate social responsibility Adam Lindgren, again the same person at University of Harvard Business School. Now he was concentrating on just supply chains. And he uses the words, organizations voluntarily choose to behave in a more responsible manner beyond what the law stipulates. Some of these reasons appear defensive, whereas others are strategic or even altruistic. Then he quotes Baron 2001 and Vogel 2005. So, leader, I'm not against the thought. And again, Mr. Speaker, I conclude with my research again. Formulation of corporate social responsibility and its deployment must be based on if we assume that business firms should be socially responsible, in what ways should this be exercised? So, with that thinking of the Honorable Arnold Dompré and his colleagues, that businesses and corporate entities in Ghana must be socially responsible, but how is it to be exercised is what this parliament must guide him. But I don't think that his motion must be for a law. As I have said, private members' law, manifesting in a private members' bill, in my view, will be repugnant and an affront to the provisions of Article 108 of the Constitution. But, Mr. Speaker, I wholeheartedly agree with him that we need to clean up and streamline what corporate entities do in Ghana. Many of them abuse it. Many of them, even in the communities that they serve. You go and establish a cement factory probably in Bupe. Then Bupe, they don't have drinking water. We expect that that entity there should be able to support them by way of providing quality water in the name of corporate social responsibility. So, Mr. Speaker, I support the motion, but I will urge, if it's not difficult, that we go beyond the construct into putting emphasis on law, because laws matter. And for corporate entities, their brand name means a lot for them. So the reason why they will put up water, a toilet facility or an educational facility, is to promote their brand. But I repeat, Mr. Speaker, without fear of contradiction, that corporate social responsibility is a purely voluntary ethical act of corporate entities. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes. Honorable Majority Leader.
Speaker, thank you very much for the opportunity to also add my voice to the debate on the motion, the private member's motion before us. Speaker, the motion reads that this House passes a law to mainstream and streamline corporate social responsibility in Ghana to ensure a cogent, equitable, and sustainable national development. Mr. Speaker, first let me offer a quick response to my colleague, the Deputy Minority Whip, who raises issues in respect of Article 108. Mr. Speaker is saying to us, and Article 108 that he quotes, and which is also rehashed by the Minority Leader, provides that Parliament shall not, unless a bill is introduced or the motion is introduced by or on behalf, proceed upon a bill, including an amendment to a bill that, in the opinion of the person presiding, makes provision for any of the following: the imposition of taxation, the imposition of a charge on the consolidated fund, that is in A, Roman number 1 and Roman number 2. Mr. Speaker, we are not dealing with a bill. As of yet, we are not dealing with a bill. We are only dealing now with a motion which provides that we should pass a law to mainstream and streamline corporate social responsibility in Ghana. when the bill is introduced and we look at the nature and character of that bill and realize that it's going to impose a charge on the consolidated fund, then this argument will arise. We're not there yet. We are engaged in preemptive strike, which is not necessary. It's a speculative misadventure. Mr. Speaker, we are not there yet, so we cannot raise this matter at this stage. But, Mr. Speaker, the principle being espoused in the motion is what we should be debating. Now, the activities of corporations, especially those that embark on extraction of natural resources and those that engage in production in value addition, often impact on the environment. The destruction of built environment, roads, houses, smoke emission, and so on. Mr. Speaker, this is what this motion is addressing, what to do in such regard. In this regard, it becomes necessary for such companies to assume some other additional responsibilities, by way of providing assistance to cushion the impact of their activities on the environment. Mr. Speaker, that is what is meant by corporate social responsibility. Is this the first time that Parliament is debating such a matter or engendering appropriate provisions to ensure sanity, equity, and sustainability in national development? No, this is not the first time. The Speaker, in 1997, this House, in passing the Timber Resources Management Act, addressed its mind to this same phenomenon. And I'll quote for us the Timber Resources Management Act, 1997, Act 547. The Speaker, Section 3 reads, application for timber rights. Procedure for application for timber rights shall be as prescribed by regulations made under this Act. 3 says, without prejudice to Section 1 of this section, an application for timber rights shall be made in writing to the Forestry Commission, which shall immediately refer the application to the Timber Rights Evaluation Committee established under Section 5 of this Act. 3, which is relevant, provides the application shall be accompanied with, the Speaker, among other things, and I'm quoting E, proposals to assist in addressing the social needs of communities who have interest in the applicant's proposed area of operations. So the law committed them to performing social responsibilities. We legislated this in this House, Act 547. So indeed, this is not the first time we are doing this. The Speaker, this Act is in respect of extracting natural resources. The distinction must be made between enterprises dealing with non-replenishable natural resources and those involved in second-level manufacturing activities. Even those of them engaged in second-level manufacturing activities, the Speaker, we're talking about emission of smoke, pollution of the environment, and so on. The ejection of toxic chemicals into the atmosphere. What to do to cushion the environment that operates in is what we refer to as corporate social responsibility. Mr. Speaker, all those who are associating with the motion are relating to mining companies. They are giving examples from South Africa and comparing what is happening in Johannesburg, to what is happening in Obuasi. Obuasi had the most endowed gold reserve in the world in terms of quality. the quality of the gold in South Africa is not as rich as that of Obuasi. And yet, look at the circumstance of Obuasi. There was no corporate social responsibility. So, Mr. Speaker, even forestry, we have harvested all our lumber, depleted us, and is contributing to climate change in the country. What has happened? Mr. Speaker, the reality check, Article 36 of our Constitution, 36, and I quote 36 to D, which provides, with respect, Mr. Speaker, the state shall in particular take all the necessary steps to establish a sound and healthy economy whose underlying principles shall include, and I quote for us, D, 2D, undertaking even and balanced development of all regions and every part of each region in Ghana, and in particular, improving the conditions of life in the rural areas and generally addressing any imbalance in development between the rural and urban areas. So, in such instances, you require the intervention of the state to direct certain corporate bodies to go into certain otherwise hostile environments to operate. Are you going to commit them to social responsibility when you yourself are forcing them more or less to operate in very unwelcome environments? So, Mr. Speaker, whereas I buy into the principle, it cannot be an omnibus law. It cannot be. So we should be careful. I disagree with the issue of the imposition of taxation. As I said, we are not there. Let's not jump the gun. We'll be called back if we jump the gun. These days, you may be disqualified in athletics. Mr. Speaker, now, where we are we dealing with a stand-alone legislation, or is it that we are going to amend existing laws, as obtains in the Timber Resources Management Act? That is something. But, Mr. Speaker, having said this, I disagree with the construct and the import of this motion. Having said all that I've said, I disagree with it. Why? Because, Mr. Speaker, all that we are saying is that those of them who have spoken ahead of me, they are saying that there is a missing link. There is an identified mischief in our legal regime which we must address. If that is the case, Mr. Speaker, it falls in tandem with Article 106, not 108. 106 provides, and with respect, Mr. Speaker, let me draw attention to 106. It says, it relates to bills that are introduced in this House. And in particular, Mr. Speaker, I want us to, Article 106, 2. No bill other than a bill, such a bill as referred to in paragraph A of Article 108 of this Constitution shall be introduced in Parliament unless A says it is accompanied by an explanatory memorandum setting out in detail the policy and principles of the bill, the defects of the existing law, which is what we have identified now, the remedies proposed to deal with those defects, and the necessity for its introduction. Mr. Speaker, this debate really should inform the construct of a memorandum which will accompany a bill that will be introduced. We don't need a motion to herald, such a motion, such a bill. Otherwise, any bill that is coming to this House that is intended to address a mischief that we have identified will have to be preceded by a motion to play the role of a John the Baptist before the introduction of Jesus Christ. It's absolutely unnecessary. So whereas I sympathize with those of them with respect to my chief whip, Mr. Speaker, I share the principle, but this path is a very unrighteous path. That's because, so I'm just saying that this is an exercise in futility, this motion. Unfortunately, even though I sympathize with their cause, and I believe that a lot of research has gone into what they've done. Mr. Speaker, I don't consider this motion worthy. The minority that who just associated with him is asking him what does he want to achieve. Mr. Speaker, so clearly, I sympathize with you, my dearest children, and those of you who have associated. But I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure that this is the path. This is the path to tread. So Ahmed's own path is also not very good. But Mr. Speaker, is worth the trial. I mean, having exercised our minds on this, but I think that if they want to introduce the beer, let them so do. And the memorandum will be influenced by the discourse that has gone on now. But this motion, as it stands, Mr. Speaker, is absolutely with the greatest respect to the sponsors of the motion. But, Mr. Speaker, for the fact that it has engaged our attention, they should be commended. The fact that some people have conducted some research, they should be commended. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to leave it at that. And I think next time we'll see how we all have to put our minds together and lead them on the path of righteousness. What we are witnessing today is really the path of unrighteousness. Mr. Speaker, thank you very much.
Very well. Honorable members, I believe we have had enough discussion or debate on this particular motion. In fact, my information is that there are currently some members who are working on a certain bill almost related to something like this. We will probably urge them to link up with the mover of the motion and probably link up with the Ministry of Trade and Industry as well as Finance to fashion out something that will be acceptable to the business community as well as our society. So on this note, I'll put the question. Since this is a motion, I'll put the question. And the question is, as many as are in favor of the motion, say aye. I'll put the question again. As many as are in favor of the motion, say aye. Those against the motion, say no. Honorable members, the noes have it. But that notwithstanding, I will urge the mover of the motion to link up with a group that is fashioning out something, as well as the Ministry of Trade and Finance, and let's do out something in relation to the motion we have discussed. Thank you very much. Yes, Leader.
Speaker, even though quite devastated, but I have hope. Speaker, shall we take item number 16 on page 7? Are you?
Yes. item number 16 on page 7 on today's order paper. Motion. That is a procedural motion by the chairman.
Right Honourable Speaker, I beg to move that item number 16, as listed in today's order paper, page 7, be considered. I so move.
Yes. Any seconder?
I second the motion, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable members, this procedural motion, the question is as many as are in favor of the motion say aye. Those against the motion say no. The ayes have it, honourable members. The motion is carried. We move to item number 17, the substantive motion. Chairman.
Right Honourable Speaker, I beg to move that item listed as number 17 on page 7 of today's order paper be considered. In so doing, I wish to submit a report of the committee by drawing first attention of the Hazard Department to capture fully the contents of this report, as I would be jumping in between. Mr. Speaker, Parliament at its sitting held on Friday, 12 April 2019, approved by resolution the EPC 10-key contract agreement between the Government of the Republic of Ghana, represented by the Ministry of Health, and Contractor Constructions UK Limited for a sum of €138,500,000 for the completion of the Konfanochi Teaching Hospital, Maternity and Children's Block. The approval for the loan facility was also given on the same day. The scope of works for the project was to include minor repairs to the existing building, complete finishing and finishing of the facility. Site works had begun when, unfortunately, extensive structural integrity tests of the building showed that, for purposes of safety and value for money, the structure has to be completely pulled down and rebuilt. Mr. Speaker, the earlier option of the structural reinforcement of the building could not be executed because of the extent of the damage and deterioration of the 40-year-old building. The analysis of the test results indicated that, should the contractor continue with the current reinforcement, the potential outcome could be a structural collapse. The continuation of the reinforcement will be risky to the builders as well as the patients and health workers who will work in the facility prior to the site being handed over. The detailed testing could not be done to ascertain the extent of damage on account of cost. Also, the existing structure on site does not match the design drawings and specifications. Consequently, it is impossible to predict the behavior of the structure during propping to undertake the reinforcement works. Apart from the variance in construction, the quality is not up to design standards specified on the design drawings. Currently, the contractor has provided additional props inside the building to avoid potential collapse while undertaking further testing. Due to the condition of the building, work involved has to be done in a highly technical manner and must be done very slowly and meticulously to avoid potential collapse. This means that the program for works for reinforcement will take longer than currently envisaged, impacting the loan availability period. The Ministry of Health therefore had no option than to agree to the total demolition of the existing building to allow for the construction of a new one. The Ministry's concern and reason for the decision was safety issues mentioned afore. The scope for the project had to be revised for the reconstruction works, and the only difference would be the amount of bed space. The revised scope will offer a fully functional building
I believe members have a copy.
Yes, they do.
If members have copy, then please.
Okay. I take a cue from your right honorable speaker. In so doing, right honorable speaker, I land by going straight to the conclusion. And I wish to draw attention to the fact that the committee recommends to the House to adopt the report and approve by resolution. I've already drawn the attention of the House Committee for the full details. Yes, I did. Leader, stop distracting me. So, Honorable Speaker, we have therefore recommended for the House to adopt this. I so move. Thank you very much.
Very well. Yes, Honorable Ranking.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the motion, item 17, except to say that, okay, I can see the minister there who is ready to move the motion for the resolution. I was struggling to see the minister. But, Mr. Speaker, as indicated by the chairman, we had a contract between the Republic of Ghana, represented by Ministry of Health, and Contractor Construction Limited, UK. And this agreement was approved by this House around 12th of April 2019. So if anything at all, we should be talking about the project nearing completion. Unfortunately, we are back to Parliament to reconsider the scope of the project. Mr. Speaker, it is as a result of improper integrity test of the structure. Mr. Speaker, the structure, there was an already existing structure which was supposed to be completed and equipped. But upon further test, integrity test, it was found out that there were severe defects in the structure which would probably result to collapse of the structure if they continue. My question is, couldn't they have done this integrity test before coming back to Parliament, or before coming to Parliament for the contract to be approved? The Speaker, that certainly is my worry. The Speaker, again, you realize you come from the Ashanti region. Thus, there were a lot of brouhaha around the demolition of the structure. So I thought that when they realized that the structures will be demolished, they should have come back to Parliament before even attempting to demolish the structures. That would have been neater. So I believe that going forward, if any situation of that nature arises, ministers must come back to Parliament for approval before attempting to demolish. Of course, let me be fair to the minister that it is one of the few contracts that have come back to Parliament for violation of the scope of the project. That I'll give it to him. That is the proper thing to do, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, now, according to the evaluation of the project, we are reducing from about 750 beds to around 510.
Come again.
According to the valuation, we are reducing the number of beds from around 750 beds to about 510 beds. And the reasons that were given was that the reasons that were adduced was that, yes, we have Sewua Hospital around the Afari one, the Kumawu one, and the Bekwai one, which unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, for the past 4 to 5 years, have not seen completion. So I will plead with the minister, if they are giving these as reasons for augmenting the new scope, then we must expedite action on those projects so that they could serve the purpose he is talking about. Mr. Speaker, in principle, I am not against the variation of the scope of the project, because this has to do with the integrity of the structure, and we don't hope that we will continue the structure and it will lead to the collapse of the structure to kill innocent souls. So, Mr. Speaker, with these few words, I second the motion and I urge all honorable members to support the motion and impress upon the Speaker to the Minister to finish the uncompleted project within that particular catchment area. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. Honorable members, the motion has been moved and seconded. It's before us to consider it. So I will invite two from each side, then I'll come to the leadership. Yes, Honorable Member for Menshianov.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute towards the adoption of the motion. Mr. Speaker, inasmuch as my ranking agrees with the principle of the variation, it also calls for commendation on the part of the Minister for bringing this to the fore of the House for consideration. Worry has to do with the reduction, and we all have that worry, the reduction of the bed size capacity of the hospital. But it must also be noted, Mr. Speaker, that the working areas, the theaters, and all other surgical areas will remain intact, and that the completion of these projects, Seria Afari, which is almost completed with about 500 bed capacity, Bekwai with about 120 with TEPA, and Konongo all coming on board, will complement that. Foresight and the time at which 44 years ago that we intended having the 750 bed capacity, actually by now there are other hospitals and health centers and clinics around which are compensating for some of these. And with a hospital that has stood, or a structure that has stood for over 44 years, Mr. Speaker, it is of worry, and it's really indeed of worry, and that we would have seen some of these structures deteriorating. It stands therefore that if we still wanted to have maintained the over 700 bed capacity, Mr. Speaker, we needed to have added more in recent times, as to be able to then finish with all of these other facilities that we are building. It is important that, Mr. Speaker, we work within the confines of the approval and that vary the scope as is being done. Mr. Speaker, I would therefore urge the House that we adopt and work within the frame of what has been approved by varying the scope of work, so that we can have a structure that is fit for purpose and will serve the good people of the region, and in as much of fact, the whole Ghana, because Kumasi and for that matter, the Ashanti region, when it has such a hospital, becomes a referral center, and everybody will be trooping in. With these few words, Mr. Speaker, I would urge my colleagues and the House to adopt the resolution for the change of variation in the order of the EPC Turkey contract agreement between the Government of Ghana, in respect represented by the Ministry of Health, and Contractor Company UK, to finish up the hospital and the maternity block at Konfanochi Teaching Hospital in Kumasi. I so submit. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Member for Adentan.
Mr. Speaker, I thank you for this opportunity. I also rise to support the motion for the adoption of the report of the Committee on Health on the change of variation order to the EPC turnkey contract agreement between the Government of the Republic of Ghana, represented by the Ministry of Health, and Contractor Construction UK Limited, for the sum of €138.5 million to complete the revised scope of works in respect of the execution of the modernization of the Konfanochi Teaching Hospital Maternity and Children's Block. Mr. Speaker, this contract was initially signed and approved in this House on the 18th of April 2019 by the 7th Parliament. Mr. Speaker, the terms of the agreement was for the completion and furnishing of the existing 7-story uncompleted structure that had been left at the mercy of the weather for over 40 years. Mr. Speaker, when the site works was actually commenced in June of 2020, the contractors noticed that the building was not as safe and sound as they expected. They therefore commissioned a structural integrity test of the building, and it showed that its structural integrity was extremely compromised. Mr. Speaker, another independent structural integrity test was commissioned, and they also confirmed the unsafe condition of the structure. Mr. Speaker, I would have thought that the comprehensive structural integrity test would have been performed before awarding this contract. At this point, the ministry and the contractor were left in limbo as to whether to completely the building and start, or to go along with the existing contract where they needed to provide support for it. They did a sort of analysis of the cost implications. With the revised
scope. They were going to reduce the floors from 7 floors to 5 floors, maintaining the same contract sum of 138.5 million euro. However, if they wanted to maintain the 7 floors, they were going to have to move the contract sum from 138.5 million euro to 180 million euro, which meant that some extra funds was going to be needed. So I think they chose the latter option of having to raise down the building, reduce the floors from 7 to 5, reduce the number of beds from 800 plus to something in the region of around 500 plus beds. But however, Mr. Speaker, they were going to maintain every other thing constant. So the number of theaters, the number of outpatients, people who are going to be seen were going to maintain. However, given the reduction in the number of beds, it might not necessarily affect the people around because of the investments in the health sector by the former administration. So you find that in the Ashanti catchment area, the Kumau District Hospital, the Bekwai District Hospital, the Fomena District Hospital, and also the military hospital within the Ashanti enclave would make up for that loss. So clearly, even though there's a reduction in scope, you still have this latitude to play along with. Mr. Speaker, that notwithstanding, I pray that this House approves and adopts the report. I'm most grateful, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much.
Yes. Yes, honorable member for. Gentlemen, are you up? Are you on your feet? Well. Minister, I'll come to you. Let me invite honorable member for Techiman. Is it Techiman off? No, I'll come to you. Let me listen to the lady first.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to motion number 17 on the order paper. Mr. Speaker, by now we know that we are where we are in respect of this project because things that could have been done earlier were not done properly, i.e., if proper assessment of the 40-year-old building had been done. Mr. Speaker, in the report, it is also stated that after Parliament has granted the loan, it was later realized that the existing structure on site does not match the design, drawing, and specification. Consequently, it is impossible to predict the behavior of the structure during propping to undertake the reinforcement work. The next prudent question to ask is, when was this detected? Couldn't this have happened before coming to Parliament? This was not done. In addition to all that has been said, we are also happy, however, that for fear of being criticized, they did not go ahead to do the untoward, but has come clean to Parliament to say that it was an oversight thing that they couldn't do properly, and so they prefer to pull it down so that safety is secured. So long as the right thing is being done, even though bed spaces are being reduced, we still pray that this honorable House adopts the report. I thank you for the opportunity.
Yes. Medical doctor, let me hear you.
Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker. I rise to also support the motion. And more so, I'm excited to contribute because I passed through the Comfort Anoche Teaching Hospital as part of my medical training. And I'm excited that this project, there are steps to ensure that it is completed for the good use of the people of Ghana, because it's a tertiary facility that will accept patients across the length and breadth of this country. Mr. Speaker, a lot has been said because this is not a new contract.
It's just a change in scope and a variation. But the point that I also want to stress is that if we look at paragraph 2.2, which seems to suggest that after we had signed the contract, somewhere 12 April 2019, the structural integrity test was conducted, and then we realized that there was a need to pull down the entire structure instead of reinforcement. That is where, even at the committee level, when we're looking at this issue, we were concerned, and we expressed it that members needed to visit that structure before signing the first contract. We didn't do that, and indeed we admitted, because members didn't visit the site to see for ourselves the state of that structure. So when it came to light that it has to be pulled down for a complete structure, we felt that even as a committee, our integrity was also being tested. And we resolved that henceforth, such projects, uncompleted projects where we need as a committee to also visit to be sure it has to be done. And lastly, to say, Mr. Speaker, the report seems to suggest that there's no change in value for money, which, as a medical doctor, I want to say that I differ a bit, because as a hospital, the fact that we are going to change the number of beds from 750 to 510, for me, is a change in value of this project. Because a situation where we are suffering from no bed syndrome, reducing the number of beds will really affect quality in this maternity and children's ward. Because talking about the other hospitals nearby, compensating for the loss of beds in Komfano-Chetim Hospital is not the case, because the quality of care in the patient being treated at a teaching hospital as compared to somebody being treated at Formina or Bekwai, you cannot say that because there are beds in those hospitals, then there's no change in value. But all the same, I support the motion, because I think it's good. It will help improve the quality of maternal and child health care in the Komfano-Chetim Teaching Hospital and in Ghana as a whole. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.
Yes. Honorable. Okay, yes.
Right, Honorable Speaker, thank you for the opportunity to contribute to this motion. Mr. Speaker, I want to commend the Minister for doing the right thing by bringing the resolution back to Parliament to ratify the changes. I think it's the proper thing to do, and all ministers can learn from that. Mr. Speaker, the completion of this project would be a situation where all politicians will have a clearer conscience, because this building has been standing there for 40 years, spanning almost every government in this country. It's sad that the original building will have to be pulled down, because, Mr. Speaker, and let's take note of this, I am sure Job 600, the original building, was built around the same time or even earlier. So for a building built around that time, which was never used, to be in that deplorable state, calls into question the quality of the construction and the quality of supervision that was done at that time. And we need to pay attention to this. All the investment that have been done in the past has gone to waste. But I agree the minister decided that it's better to err on the side of caution than to pretend that, oh, let's go ahead with it. Mr. Speaker, colleagues have talked about many of the things in terms of the capacity and everything already. All I want to add is that, Mr. Speaker, the reason the developer is struggling for space is that those who know where the hospital is, the military has occupied part of that land for a very long time. They don't have any use for it. But some veterans, those who know those round buildings around, it is of no actual use for the state. It's a state land. And I know there has been negotiation between the military and the hospital, and I'm told even Otunfo intervened at a point in time. Let that discussion conclude so the hospital can have the full complement of that, because they need to do expansion in the future. It is extremely critical. So, Minister, try and conclude on that so that you can have all that land for further expansion. This is just child and maternal health. We need other facilities to make that hospital more modern. So, Mr. Speaker, without speaking much,
for bringing the consideration of this facility back to this House. Mr. Speaker, we should also be blaming ourselves for not doing what was required of us. When such applications are made to the House, it's imperative for us, using our committees, Mr. Speaker, to pursue this to the ground, to ensure that what application that we consider really is worthy of consideration. It is not only the test for the integrity of that facility does not only rest on the shoulders of the ministry, it also rests on Parliament. We also need to do that ourselves. Because in approving of it, the Speaker, we want really, and we have to, assure ourselves that what we are doing is right. If there's no certificate on the integrity of the facility, and we approve of the loan to be applied on it, we have abdicated our responsibility. So we cannot only lay blame on the doorsteps of the ministry. We must also accept part of the blame. The Speaker, having said that, as the honourable member, the honourable Govins got started in 1963, and yet, in fact, Speaker, it has many more stories than the facility at Kumasi. The facility at Kumasi was not occupied. In terms of load bearing, this one bears much more load than the Konfarachi one. Mr. Speaker, and yet when it came to the analysis of the integrity of that facility, it was found wanting. Well, basically because it was unprotected. It was not roofed. So there were a lot of leakages and seepages that affected not only the blocks, they were not plastered, and there was serious corrosion with the iron rods. But, Mr. Speaker, you compare it to Job 600, our own Job 600. It's closer to the sea. Our sea is so salty. And so, in terms of corrosion, it should also be suffering much more than what corrosion that perhaps would occur in Kumasi. So, Mr. Speaker, it's not for nothing that our Constitution provides that facilities, projects that are commenced by preceding administrations should be continued by succeeding administrations. We've not followed this in the coup regimes for a long time. And, Mr. Speaker, we should now, looking over our shoulders, come to the determination that coup regimes have not helped this nation in any way. Most coups. All coups. Mr. Speaker, so it's important that we look at this. And sometimes, even when you have to raise down and build from the scratch, the Speaker, is often less costly. It's often less expensive. So doing what the ministry is trying to do now should be commended. Let's not forget that our own Job 600, we said it was going to cost us rehabilitating. It was going to cost us, at the very outset, $25 million. through the years, when we finished, it cost us close to $100 million. Just 600. Cletus, I'm not lying, am I? Speak to the mic. Mr. Speaker, that is what cost escalation can do to. That is what cost escalation can do to refurbishing existing structures. So I commend the minister, because in all probability, if they were going to just refurbish, you will see, at the end of the day, it would have come for more money than this. So what is being done now, Speaker, is good. But the issue about the bed capacity climbing down from 750 to 500, I think that in the circumstances, I guess we would have to accept that. Because, first of all, we should consider that many of the polyclinics that existed, Menchia, Tafo, Sintreso, the other one, is it Atonsu, they've all been transformed into hospitals. And the bed capacity has also increased. Speaker, now Bekwai, Kukufu, Tepa, and I think they are working on Kumawu, and also the military hospital are all coming on stream. And then, KNUST, the hospital is also coming up to be transformed into a teaching hospital. So I'm not too worried about the capacity, 500, the reduction from 750 to 500. I think it will serve the people. After all, teaching hospitals are not supposed to be overloaded. And the maternity block is part of the teaching hospital. So to me, it is a good proposal before us that we should consider worthy. And Speaker, we should all come together to approve of the facility. Speaker, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yes, Majority Leader, you said you are not too worried about the reduction of the. Personally, I am worried. Yes. I'm happy that the project is seeing the light of the day, only that the best capacity is being reduced. In 1970s, if they thought of putting up that number, 750, and 2021, we are reducing it to 510. For me, I'm a bit worried. Anyway, reasons has been adduced to it. So, honorable members, the question, I'll put the question, and the question is, as many as are in favor of the motion say aye. Those against the motion say no. Honorable members, the ayes have it. The motion is hereby adopted. Yes, Honorable Minister, let's move to the resolution, item number 18.
Honorable Speaker, I rise. 18. I rise to beg to move for the adoption of the resolution number 18, listed on page 8 of today's order paper. I so do.
Very well. Yes.
18, leader, page 11.
Page 11.
Yes, second.
Speaker, I beg to second the motion for the adoption of the resolution. Thank you.
Honorable members, as many as are in favor of the resolution say aye. Those against the resolution say no. Honorable members, the ayes have it. The resolution is hereby adopted. Respectful Majority Leader, any indications?
The Speaker, the Deputy Whip is reminding me of an outstanding statement that he has. I don't know whether we couldn't allow him to make the statement. When he finishes, maybe we can have just one contribution from either side.
Very well.
Right.
So we come to item number 6, statement. And the statement we have stands the name of Honorable Ahmed Ibrahim on the boundary commission between the Bono and the Savannah region. Yes, Honorable Deputy Rep.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to make this statement. Mr. Speaker, for the past 2 weeks, the Bono Regional House of Chiefs has been meeting on a very urgent emerging issue between the Bono and the Savannah regions about their boundary positions. Mr. Speaker, this happened when a chief in dollar power sacked enumerators from the Bono region from counting them with the reason that the place belongs to the Savannah region and that they will only allow enumerators from the Savannah region to undertake the exercise in that place, even though those communities lie in the Bono region. Mr. Speaker, similar boundary disputes exist between regions, other regions in the country. That is, there is a similar problem between the Greater Accra region and the Central region in Kaswa and Amanfro. There is also another dispute between the Eastern region and the Greater Accra region in Obum, Domiabra, and Amasaman. In the Eastern Corridor, Mr. Speaker, one cannot lose sight of the unfortunate situation in the Volta and Oti regions, which has resulted in some people not having representation in this House of Parliament. One can also cite what happened between the Greater Accra and Eastern region and the threat of force being used by some chiefs to forcefully shift the boundary position. Some of the effects of these boundary positions, Mr. Speaker, are as follows. 1. Over 6,000 citizens, over 6,000 structures in the Bana district were not enumerated, and this has the potential of undermining the credibility of the 2021 population and housing census. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, there was a brutal civil-military clash in Donfasi community in the Obun Domiabra area in Greater Accra, where at least 3 people lost their lives and about 300 people were injured. Mr. Speaker, finally, thirdly, in the Oti and Volta regions, the people of Lolobi, Santrokofi, Apafu, and Lipe have no representation in this 8th Parliament. Recommendations. Mr. Speaker, I recommend that Mr. Speaker direct the joint committees of lands and natural resources, local government and rural development, and defense and interior to assist the Ghana Boundary Commission, which is responsible for internal boundary dispute settlement, to investigate the matter for amicable dispute settlement and to report back to the House. Mr. Speaker, the Census Committee to carry on enumeration at the disputed areas with reference to the timelines. Finally, Mr. Speaker, the Ministry for National Security and Regional Security Committees of the affected areas must assist the Ghana Statistical Service for the exercise to be conducted, and I mean the population and housing census. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes. Honorable Member. Yes. Honorable Minority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I want to commend the Honorable Ibrahim Ahmed for this statement and to encourage him to continue to engage with the chiefs and people of the area together with other stakeholders for a peaceful resolution of the boundary disputes. Mr. Speaker, he has related to several other regions, Savannah, Bono, Oti, Volta, and others. We are a peaceful country. Mr. Speaker, you know these boundaries, they border on land, and who has ownership of land. And therefore, they can feel very strongly about it, and that can affect the peace and harmony and coexistence of the suspicious parties to many of this. So, Mr. Speaker, as he has said, even the population census suffered as a result of it. I would recommend strongly that our Committee on Defense and Interior, our Committee on Natural Resources and Land go into a determination of this matter. And probably the Ministry of Interior must take particular interest because this can trigger an engender conflict. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, I wholeheartedly support the statement, but I will urge that you direct the Committee on Lands and Natural Resources, the Committee on Interior and Defense, and probably to go into the matter. I should think that we have a boundary dispute commission and then to refer it appropriately for them. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. Honorable Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, I think we must commend the Deputy Minority Whip for this early warning signal that he's provided us. As a country, we have resolved that we will live in unity and stability as captured in the preamble of our Constitution. So, Mr. Speaker, these infractions, when they come up and they are detected early enough, we should address them soonest. Because if you allow them to fester, then other people also turn around to feed on them and escalate the problem for us. So I wholeheartedly agree with the prescription of the minority chief, the maker of the statement. Essentially, this is a local government or local governance matter. Local government ministry is responsible. However, given what issues that are involved, I agree that we could conjoin the leadership of the Committee on Defense and Interior to the main local government committee, plus, as you indicated, and, Mr. Speaker, as you said, the Committee on Responsible Lands. So, a Committee on Lands, the leadership of the Committee on Defense and Interior could link up with Committee of Local Government and look into this, Speaker, and report to us. I'm not too sure that within 1 week they can do any good job because it is also related to some other regions. Even Greater Accra, between Greater Accra and the same that it refers to the Savannah and Bono. So when we proceed on recess, which is supposed to be next week, 6th of August.
Abolishment. Yes, Honorable Member, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the United Nations General Assembly saw a record number of states, 23, supporting resolution calling for establishment of a moratorium on execution with a view on recommendation of the Constitutional Review Commission. The second approach, which I believe could yield a speedy result, would be an amendment of Act 29 that would lead to about 95% abolition of death penalty without constitutional amendment. This position has been forcefully argued by the Amnesty International Ghana and human rights lawyers like lawyer Martin Pebu. And Right Honorable Speaker, yesterday when the Honorable Attorney General was here, in his answer, he made it clear that the Offences Act is right within the remit of this Honorable House. Mr. Speaker, constitutional amendment of an entrenched provision comes with cost, the need for citizens, funds and logistics to the Electoral Commission to conduct the said referendum, among many others. This could be avoided by simple death penalty provisions in Act 29. Mr. Speaker, the death penalty inflicts not only immense psychological pain and torture on accused and convicted persons and assassination officers, but also smacks of practices of backward societies. In view of this, It is worth pointing out that Ghana has not applied death penalty since 1993. Accordingly, Ghana has been described by 2020 Amnesty International Global Report on death penalty as being death penalty abolitionist in practice. Therefore, there is the need to amend Section 46, 49, 49A, 180, 194, and 317A of the Criminal and Other Offences Act to achieve the 95% abolition of the death penalty. Very respectfully, Right Honourable Speaker, in 2011, while delivering the judgment of the Supreme Court in the case of Jester Johnson versus the Republic, 2011 to Supreme Court of Ghana Law Report at page 601, the court, through Justice Doche JSC, said, and I quote, "The time has possibly come for the Parliament of Ghana to seriously consider whether to have a policy shift in the mandatory death penalty regime imposed on those convicted of murder. It is only Parliament which can consider an amendment of the Criminal and Other Offences Act at 29, unquote." Mr. Speaker, more than 10 years down the line, Parliament, which is the legislative arm of government, is yet to take any major step in this direction. But today, the 8th Parliament has an opportunity to change the course of history in Ghana. We have an opportunity to show that we are pro-life. We have an opportunity to show that we cannot condemn killing and yet use killing as a mode of punishment. We have an opportunity to join Sierra Leone as shining examples in West Africa and on the African continent by completely removing death penalty from our statute book. Mr. Speaker, I therefore call on members of Parliament, major stakeholders and interest groups to support the private members' bill that has been submitted to this House and admitted by the Speaker of this House to begin the process of abolishing death penalty from our statute book. Respectfully submitted, Mr. Speaker. I'm most grateful for the opportunity to make this statement.
Yes, very well. 1, 2. So I'm admitting 1, 2. Yes, honorable member.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for the opportunity to contribute to the statement ably made by the honorable member for Adenta, Honorable Francis Xavier Sosu.
Is he a member of Adenta?
Nadina.
Okay,
Nadina.
but be snappy, please.
Yes, Nadina. Mr. Speaker, I am inclined to say that if you go to our prisons now, some people may be languishing in prison for a crime that they have not committed, particularly if we do not have a direct evidence and they rely on circumstantial evidence which may be cogent, pointing irresistibly to one conclusion. So they are there for a crime they have not committed. And Mr. Speaker, life is only one, and life lost can never be regained. If the person is sentenced to death and the execution is carried out, if subsequently it turns out that the person is not responsible for the commission of that particular crime, that life is gone and the opportunity to bring him back is not there for anybody. For this reason alone, death penalty should not be part of our laws. However, death penalty is part of our laws. Mr. Speaker, the second reason is that though death penalty is part of our laws, recently it is not being enforced. Anybody who is committed or sentenced to death, the execution will not be carried out, but rather it will be converted into life imprisonment. Why do we keep that law in our statutes? When it comes to enforcement, the enforcement cannot be carried out for a very cogent and significant reason that you may sentence the person and further investigation may reveal in future that the person is not responsible for the commission of a crime. This reminds me of my criminal procedure law lecturer who told us about a rhetorical case where a person was convicted and sentenced to death. And then the death execution was not carried out. After several years, it turned out that another person has committed an offense and made a confession that he was the one who caused the murder, resulting into the punishment for A, and that A was not responsible for the punishment. Before he was brought out from prison based on the confession, he's gone blind. Now he's appealing to the state for compensation. It means that he suffered for a crime that he has not committed. And if the death sentence was enforced, life taken away, they wouldn't have even the opportunity to bring him out of prison blind. So, Mr. Speaker, I really support the statement that our Criminal Offences Act should be amended and death penalty will be abolished. All over the world, death penalty is abolished in most countries. Ghana is one of the few countries still harboring death penalty as a sanction in our law. Once it remains a sanction in our laws, the courts will be compelled to apply it. They do not have the power to amend the law. It is Parliament that has the power to amend the law. So, Mr. Speaker, by this statement, I'm calling on the House, even through a private member's bill, this particular death penalty can be taken out from our criminal statute. Mr. Speaker, I support the statement.
Very well. Let me invite Honorable Member for Abuja South.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to the statement on the floor relating to the need to remove death penalty from our laws. Honourable Speaker, I'll tell an ancient story which is connected with the Achimabwakwa people. The story is that on the death of Nanase of Rata I, there was a very serious allegation that some people from the royal background had murdered a chief. And it was a huge matter. It went to the Privy Council in the United Kingdom and the rest of it. So upon the conviction of the accused persons, I think it was so, I think 3 were killed. They were hanged in those days. The rest of them were not hanged, but were also on the road to death. Some evolving evidence came after the 3 had been killed. These ones are not as guilty as has been done at the court of first instance, which meant that they should be acquitted and discharged. So, Honourable Speaker, for the fact that Dr. J.B. Dankwa fought relentlessly, even to the Privy Council in the United Kingdom, people who were otherwise innocent, by the fact that they've been convicted and there's a death penalty as part of the laws of the then Gold Coast, would have died needless death. So this is just one reason why it is believed that no matter how perfect you think the criminal justice system is, it is possible for the innocent to be convicted. The criminal justice system does not guarantee that every conviction is sacrosanct. As a matter of fact, you can be a victim of the false accusation of witnesses who lawyers could not cross-examine properly or for some other reason, so that the lies will convert into positive judicial confessions. And the judge, based on the evidence adduced, could convict an innocent man. On this showing alone, it is very important that we shouldn't hang a man, even if there's a conviction that he's murdered another person, according to the laws of the country. Another point of consequence is that what is the benefit of killing another man for the death of an individual? I'm yet to see the benefit. What is more of a punishment if a man is deprived of his liberty for the rest of his life? What death penalty is equal to you being sentenced permanently, incarcerated? You don't have the freedom of the rest of the world, and you're in a very decrepit corner in the prison yard, probably doing serious farming and other things. You don't have the benefit of romance. You don't have the benefit of good food. Your life is at a very poor level of existence. I believe that is the worst, the best death penalty you can have. That if a man is supposed to live for, say, okay, let's give it a 70 years, as Moses said. So a man is supposed to live for 70 years. And then because he's been convicted, you eliminate this man who is about 46. The rest of the pain of incarceration, you will not feel it. When you kill a man, you end his pain. His fears, anxieties, and the rest of them will end upon his death. So the cheapest way to punish a man for killing another man is to kill him. But the best way to deal with such a man is for him to go through the pain of long incarceration. Where if you are 45 and you killed another man, and maybe you are supposed to live for 70 years, the rest of your life, you are in prison. And you'll be deprived of all the luxuries of freedom. I think that is a better way to teach people a good lesson. But I am afraid if you kill a man and for killing another man, probably you will not let him know the essence of not killing that man. So, Madam Speaker, I endorse the idea that we should try and reform our laws and cancel out the death penalty from our criminal jurisprudence and our criminal act, so that men who, for whatever the reason might be, will have the spirit to murder when the justice delivery system should bring them to a point of guilty. Let the guilt be with them until they die. The guilt should not be interrupted almost immediately. It will not serve a good purpose. Mr. Speaker, these are the few remarks I want to make, and I thank the maker of the statement. It is very opportune and it's a very thoughtful statement which will wake up the conscience of this country, and especially this House, who legislate law and determine how decent living should be conducted. I'm grateful to you, Right Honourable Speaker.
1, 2, 3. You are a lady. Let me give you the opportunity.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to the debate. The statement ably made by the Member of Parliament for Medina. Mr. Speaker, it is trite learning that capital punishment is irreversible. An innocent man can be convicted and executed for a crime he did not commit. A case in point is that of Cameroon Todd Wellington, a man from Texas, who was executed for setting his 3 children ablaze to death. Mr. Speaker, later evidence showed that the man did not commit the offense. Too late, too bad, he was dead and gone. He could not be set free and compensated. What is more, Ghana practices adversarial legal system as opposed to inquisitorial legal system. In adversarial legal system, the judge is not part of the investigation. The judge only listens to both sides, the defense and the prosecution. It goes without saying that the success of your case depends on the industry of a lawyer. If an accused person is unable to hire seasoned representation, it is likely that an innocent person can be convicted and executed for a crime that he did not commit. What is more, Mr. Speaker, there is no research which shows that capital punishment is more deterrent than a prison sentence, as was alluded to by the MP for Buapa. And so, keeping capital punishment on our statutes book doesn't mean that it will deter people more. What is more, Mr. Speaker, according to the Amnesty International in Australia, published an article on 18 May 2019 and said that Mongolia and Guinea has abolished death penalty. 106 more countries have turned their backs on death penalty. It is time for Ghana to do the same. Mr. Speaker, Canada abolished capital punishment as far back as 1976, yet their murder cases keep dwindling. I think the time for Ghana to act to take this penalty off our statute book. The easy way, as has been stated by the maker of the statement already, is by looking at the Criminal Code and the Criminal Procedure Code, Act 29 and Act 30, to amend the various sections in order not to sound repetitive, to follow all the due processes and amend the various sections that repeals the death penalty. I thank you for the opportunity to contribute to this very important statement. Thank you.
Yes. I'll give to BT Baba and Honorable Kretus. BT Baba, I understand you are working at the prison service. Okay. So tell us something.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to contribute to the statement ably presented by my colleague, Lawyer Susu. Mr. Speaker, as you rightly pointed out, I worked with the Ghana Prison Service. I headed one of the institutions all condemned prisoners are sent to. And Mr. Speaker, I have witnessed the execution of prisoners. And I think that if I had not been very smart, an innocent person would have been killed for mistaken identity. This is why I support the maker of the statement and the contribution of Honorable Ahiafo, that in the carrying out the execution, it is possible that innocent people are killed. Life cannot be brought back after it has been terminated. What is the change? Even the judge who is pronouncing that sentence, I believe that for the rest of his life, if he gets to know that people have been executed, those he passed sentence to, he will never be happy. It works on them. There's a psychological effect. When it comes to the prisons, the Director General of Prisons, the officer in charge of that prison, of which I was, and the medical doctor and the chaplain are all to be witnesses to this kind of execution. Mr. Speaker, in my time, it was not mere hanging. It was by firing squad. And you see young men who have gone through reformation and have reached a point of regretting for their sins being executed at the firing squad. Mr. Speaker, as I'm talking to you, having listened to this, definitely it has an effect on me. I've seen prisoners who are going to die, even telling me that they bless me for the good care that I've given to them.
Within 15 minutes, they come and torture you, to come and torture your partner, your spouse. Take a life of his life. That one is not true. That one has no psychological feeling. What an irony of fate that we are preaching in this house. We want to surrender the country to violent crimes, violent criminals. We want to say that we have been defeated and therefore the criminals can take over this country. With the greatest respect, after all, 10 years passed, we have not sent somebody to the bulletin. Let the law be there. Death penalty continue to be there. When somebody comes to use it, let him use it. When somebody doesn't want to use it, let him not use it. In any case, in the criminal code, there are many other thousands of offenses that are there that we don't invoke the law. What is wrong with that? So I think that with the greatest respect, it's premature. And it's premature. And secondly, we cannot make a wholesale abolition of the death penalty. Life imprisonment. Then somebody comes, another government comes after 5 years and say, okay, I pardon you. Why? Mr. President, if we do that, then we are encouraging self-help. We are going to encourage instant justice. When they arrest any thief or any criminal, they will kill him there because they know when they send him to court, the courts will say, okay, go arrest him, we will feed you until you come out. Go, you will feed you and you come out. They will make sure they don't feed him. We are going to let this society become a loose place. Let this society, everybody take the law into his or her own hands. Because they say that the country has surrendered to criminals. If the country has surrendered to criminals, let me take the law into my own hands. Is that what we want? Instant justice, self-justice, self-help? That will be the irony, that will be what will happen in this country. The fear we are expressing now, to try somebody for 1 year, 2 years, and then say, go, and then see no more, go and die, that one is bad. But they will be killing innocent people every day. They will be killing innocent people every day in the name of instant justice. Major Muhammad died. That was instant justice. Is that what we want? And several other people, with the greatest respect, I think that it's premature, it's self-defeating. Self-defeating for us to abolish this death penalty as of now. I'm a Catholic. I've been telling the bishops who have been meeting us and preaching, I said, look, everywhere I go, I'll vote against abolition of death penalty as of now. Everywhere I go, I'm a Catholic. I hate violence. And I'm not going to support a law that will just let the society be free. You can do what you want and get away in the name of imprisonment for life. What is imprisonment for life? You are taking somebody's life and you should continue to live. Live for what? What is he living for? What is he going to live for? So I admire the young man, he has courage, but we will all rally support here. Let this bill come here and it will be overthrown. Yes, let this bill come here. We will not vote for it because we are in a society that we must protect society, not individuals. We must protect society. We have values. We must protect our values. You go and say, you denounce gay rights, then you come here and promote criminal violence. Why? What a contradiction. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, I'll finally give Leader Hamid to
thank you,
draw the curtains.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I was enjoying my senior colleague opposition to the statement made by the Honorable Member of Parliament for Medina on the capital punishment. Even though I differ from his argument, suffice to say that there is no evidence or there is no world research that has proven the fact that capital punishment or killing people by execution has actually solved any problem in the world. There is no such evidence. It's only in our statute books to deter criminals. But the fact is that
it hasn't been able to solve that purpose. If you look at the reason why we have actually put those in our statute books, it was meant as at then, because we were living in military junta, there was military uprising, to be able to help so that there could be sanity in our society. But at the moment, with this contemporary world that we are living in, killing another to solve another killing will never help the society. Two wrongs can never make a right. So for that matter, we need to look at it in a different way. Honorable Avoga, I do understand the pain people go through when your loved ones, when your relatives and your close associates are murdered, and then the culprits go scot-free. But this hasn't stopped crime. It hasn't reduced crime. But when Canada was able to take capital punishment from their books, in 2016, they had the lowest crime rates in America, some American country. But at the moment in Ghana, if you look at the crimes that is going on and the killing that has happened, you ask yourself, if you kill the victim or the victim who has been killed and the accused being killed, what problem has it solved? Absolutely none. It is very inhumane. And there's no better way of killing. There's no better way of killing. Others have argued that the Latin killing or by injection will actually be the easier way to get someone executed. But that also goes through a lot. Life imprisonment, we might say it is not important, but life imprisonment can correct a lot of mistakes that has happened. Other people have been convicted for life imprisonment for crimes they did not commit. And it will take up to 10, 15 years for the same court to be able to come back to say that the punishment that was given to the accused person was wrong, assuming the person was killed. Can you bring that person back to life? That is the question that we have to ask ourselves. It is not like the law, or when you go to court and you are found guilty, that is all, you are guilty. There might be something wrong. Either you are at the wrong place at the wrong time, or there was evidence that was forged. So many things go into our criminal jurisprudence. So for that matter, the best way to go is to get this thing out and be able to come out with other measures that will be able to solve this problem. The way we punish criminals in Ghana need to be looked at. I have lived in other parts of the world, and I know that even common crime, someone will go and steal a goat or a fowl, and they'll say 3, 4, 5 years in prison. The person is there, government is feeding the person. But such a person could even reform by a way of getting the person into a correction facility that will be able to help the country move forward. Mr. Speaker, with these few words, I thank the maker of the statement, and I also do believe and support the fact that the capital punishment should be removed and struck out completely from our books. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Honorable Leader, just close us with this.
Mr. Speaker, I was going to make, Mr. Speaker, I will yield to the Honorable Ebi Fuseni, except to make just one observation, because it is not as simplistic as we are making it appear. First, we must recognize that the Constitution in Chapter 3 on fundamental human rights recognizes the death penalty. And we do know that that is an entrenched provision. So it's not just in respect of the Criminal and Other Offences Act. We may have to then amend the Constitution, the entrenched position, the entrenched portion, by a referendum. So it's not that simplistic. Mr. Speaker, having said so, as I said, I just want to yield to ABF. I want him to conclude with Proverbs.
Yes, Honorable A.B. Husseini, but then no Proverbs.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, let me first thank the majority leader. Our people say when an elder is in the house, the grain will not be soaked by the rain.
It's true.
Right Honorable Speaker, I know it is not for nothing that this subject matter evokes a lot of passion and emotions. Mr. Speaker, our people say that you must have heard before you can chew corn. The right to life is so sacred that there is nothing that can be compared with it. It is such an expensive thing created by the Almighty God, Almighty Allah, that it is one of the single things that are irreplaceable. Once taken, Mr. Speaker, is taken and taken forever. So the process of taking it must of necessity involve some degree of human empathy. That what would move you to want to take the life of your fellow citizen unjustifiably? Mr. Speaker. So for somebody to neglect, to go beyond even that kind of empathy, that just the life that you have is so precious to you that you will not want to lose it. Why would you want somebody else to lose that same life that you are not ready to lose? And Mr. Speaker, I just pause to ask a simple question. Why are you so unwilling to take your own medicine? If you think it is easier to deprive somebody of his life, and it is that simple, why would you whine and cry if they want to take your life? So it should excite in us a certain feeling of a yearning for justice, not only for the person whose life has been unjustifiably taken away, but the descendants, the dependents, the relatives, friends, sympathizers, and others, Mr. Speaker, having a feeling that their pain has been sufficiently assuaged, and that the justice that they are looking for has been done. Mr. Speaker, I fail to appreciate the argument that if deterrence cannot be an instrument for curbing crime, then incarceration can be worse. Because I want to believe that every rational human being would want to live in a state of bliss, if it were possible. Everybody would like to associate with some degree of comfort and bliss. And that nobody would want to have hardship inflicted on him, ideally, if it were possible. So, Mr. Speaker, why in this case would somebody who wish for himself, and the good book, the Bible and the Holy Quran, they all say it, that do unto others what you want done unto you.
Don't do unto others.
Or in other words, don't do unto others what you don't want done to you.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, so I fail to see where, if deterrence has not been an instrument for curbing crime, I shudder to think what can curb crime. In other words, why are we enacting laws to sanction others for deviant behavior? It is to bring in the issue of deterrence, so that somebody watching another person committing that crime and seeing what the person is taking through will be deterred from embarking on some such misadventure. Mr. Speaker, that is why, regrettable as maybe people may see that somebody's life has to be taken for taking somebody's life, that in itself is to instill in us and evoke the sentiments of others
that if you unjustifiably take somebody's life, this is what will happen to you. So I, without any item of hesitation, would think that the best position to adopt in this is what our learned senior has said. Mr. Speaker, keep it on the books. If you want to apply it, you go ahead and do so because you have a legal basis for doing so. And that there are even many of these other issues on our statute books that we don't apply. So why the hurry to take this off our books? Mr. Speaker, I see some element of some alien culture.
Yes.
That is creeping into our society, dispensation, into our society.
Alien culture.
I believe that humanity as a whole is positioned in such a way that we should learn from one another. But the wholesale importation and transplantation of values that are outside our system, Mr. Speaker, does not inure well for us. We can learn from others. We can borrow from others. Ideas, principles, values. But Mr. Speaker, I think that we must do so in a manner that is in conformity with our norms, values, and belief systems in our country. I don't think that we should copy blindly, so to speak, and jeopardize our time-tested and proven culture and values. Mr. Speaker, at the risk of outliving my welcome, I want to submit respectfully, Mr. Speaker, that we should, as a people, maintain this on our statute books and ensure that that deterrence is not taken. I shudder to think, Mr. Speaker, of the day we shall remove this one. It will be a floodgate for hardened criminals. I say this, Mr. Speaker, cognizant of the fact that there are some human beings who are unrepentable. They are unreformable. In fact, they are like the former system of apartheid. They cannot be reformed. They have to be dismantled. And when you get to that moribund state, Mr. Speaker, there is no provision for any reformation. So if you take away the only instrument that can take away such people from society and allow society to enjoy a certain modicum of peace, order, and stability, would have compromised the integrity of our society. And Mr. Speaker, it will not inure to our benefit. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.
Well. Thank you. I think it has been a lively debate. Yes. So, respectfully, Majority Leader, any indications?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We can now take adjournment until tomorrow at 11 o'clock in the forenoon. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the motion for adjournment. Mr. Speaker, in doing so, I just want to add that tomorrow is a day for the media review. And once we are adjourning till 11 o'clock, members must do well to count in their numbers. Mr. Speaker, the minister too must be here on time. I know today our leader has given the minister some guidance because this is a media review. We are coming to review the budget that we passed for 2021, even though some sectors have not commenced using it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I second the motion.
Thank you very much. Honorable members. It's almost 5. So the House is accordingly adjourned till tomorrow, 11 o'clock in the forenoon. I thank you very much for your attention.